Chapter 1144. Whoosh, whoosh. The black and white abacus in Boss Qian's hand first rang in unison. Then the beads began to ring crisply. The black and white light directly protected Boss Qian. The calculation of black and white could push the heaven and earth. As one of the 3 Easter Hedge law enforcers of Luo Fan Town, Boss Qian naturally had his own strengths. At this moment, a cold light flashed in his eyes. This kind of gaze was definitely not seen on the usually amiable Boss Qian. At this moment, he was no longer a businessman, but a killer. Chi. Boss Qian had a thought. The 18 beads of black and white abacus flew out. 9 black and 9 white. They attacked Mo Lang from different directions. As soon as he made his move, Boss Qian used his top-grade Lotus Treasure. Because he knew that there was no need to test the Devil Prince, he immediately went all out. Mo Lang had the same idea, so his first move was the Mortal Coffin. The 18 beads contained boundless lotus energy. However, Mo Lang's heart moved. The Mortal Coffin above his head began to spin. Gray light shot straight into the sky. Puff, puff. As the Mortal Coffin spun, the 18 beads were all struck down by its gray light and turned to dust. Boss Qian frowned. He had seen the power of the Mortal Coffin before. After all, the Devil Lang had used it to kill Li Jiangfeng that day. However, the power of the Mortal Coffin still exceeded his expectations. Suppress. Devil Lang roared as the Mortal Coffin charged towards Boss Qian. At this moment, Boss Qian had already made his move. This time, he did not take out the beads separately, but the entire abacus. Bang! The Mortal Coffin and the abacus collided in the void. Whoosh! In the void, there were tens of thousands of rays of light, and countless broken star fragments danced in the air. That was the shattering of the black and white calculations. As the 2 Lianbua collided, the Mortal Coffin gained the upper hand. However, the Mortal Coffin's gray glow dimmed significantly. Disperse. Boss Qian didn't care about the broken black and white calculations, because at this point, the destruction of Lianbua was no longer important. The most important thing was to stay alive. Boss Qian had a thought. The fragments of the black and white calculations scattered in the void suddenly turned into black and white smoke. The black and white smoke instantly formed a formation. Boss Qian's figure actually disappeared in the smoke. His goal was not to kill the Devil Lang, but to escape. Currently, to Boss Qian, staying alive and passing on information was the most important thing. As long as the news that a law emperor could descend here spread, it would be fine. Therefore, the moment he used the black and white calculation, he had already thought of a way out. The Mortal Coffin's strength had indeed won against the black and white schemes. Moreover, Boss Qian had intentionally allowed the black and white schemes to explode. The black and white smoke became his cover. The corner of Mo Lang's mouth twitched coldly. Immediately, the lid of the Mortal Coffin began to open. The endless suction force directly swallowed the black and white smoke in the void. In an instant, the sky was clear and the smoke was gone. Boss Qian did not appear. It was as if he had really disappeared. However, Mo Lang's expression was cold, and there was disdain in his eyes. He was not worried at all. A moment later, Boss Qian suddenly staggered and appeared not far from Mo Lang. Boss Qian's expression did not look too good. This was because he had underestimated Mo Lang's forbidden painting. Just now, he had used the black and white smoke to take a step out of the village, but he was directly teleported back by Mo Lang's forbidden painting. Boss Qian, you don't have to think about it anymore. Mo Lang sneered. The entire area outside Merry Meridian Village has already been surrounded by my forbidden painting. If you want to leave, you can only kill me. Boss Qian looked at Mo Lang with shock and anger. Mo Lang, you are a genius. In all the realms, there are very few who can compare to you in terms of talent. Boss Qian looked somewhat pained. Unfortunately, you've narrowed your path. Mo Lang could not help but laugh when he heard this. In all the realms, if I, Mo Lang, narrow my path, then wouldn't the other cultivators have nowhere to go? This sentence was actually not wrong. Mo Lang had always walked his own path. This was something that even AMU and Sumo could not compare to, because Mo Lang only cared about his own heart. Arrogant to the extreme, Boss Qian said angrily, "Today, I will let you know that there is always someone better." When he looked again, Boss Qian slapped his forehead with one hand. Whoosh! A scale appeared directly above his head. The scale was antique, neither gold nor jade. In the center of the scale, there was a thin and long needle. The two plates of the scale were in the shape of lotus flowers. At this moment, there was nothing on the plate. The needle stopped at the center. Its background was a white mountain. Mo Lang's eyes narrowed. He had never heard of this Lianbua. However, with the white mountain as its background, it was naturally not an ordinary item. Fallen mortal scale? Boss Qian looked coldly at Mo Lang. This is the treasure of the white mountain. It can determine life and death. Today, let it determine our life and death. As he spoke, Boss Qian's body leaped and actually landed on the side of the scale. Whoosh, whoosh. Instantly, Mo Lang felt the world around him suddenly change. For some reason, he actually landed on the other plate of the scale. Mo Lang could not help but frown. Boss Qian was indeed quite capable. When the two of them landed, the needle in the center of the scale did not move. This meant that the probability of their life and death was exactly the same, 50/50ths. Mo Lang, life and death are up to fate. Boss Qian sneered. Now our lives and deaths are split equally. However, you are now in my domain. So die. Boom! Hua! Boss Qian directly took out a golden counterweight from his bosom. Then, with a shake of his hand, the golden counterweight directly attacked Mo Lang like a heavenly hammer. Seeing this, Mo Lang immediately activated the mortal coffin. Once the coffin lid was opened, it wanted to directly collect the golden light. However, the corner of Boss Qian's mouth curved. Scatter! He roared. Just as the counterweight was about to be collected by the demon coffin, it suddenly exploded like fireworks, directly turning into thousands of golden counterweights. The stars fell like rain, covering Mo Lang. That was an indiscriminate attack. Mo Lang raised his eyebrows. With the mortal coffin protecting him, he hurriedly retreated. However, at this moment, he suddenly realized that no matter how he dodged, he was covered by those counterweights. As it turned out, his body was in the plate, and no matter what, he could not escape. Domain. Mo Lang thought of Boss Qian's words just now and the legend of the White Mountain Enforcer's domain. This falling mortal scale was Boss Qian's domain. He trapped Boss Qian in Mary Sumeru village, so Boss Qian trapped him in his own domain. Objectively speaking, Boss Qian's response could be considered a powerful counterattack. Within his domain, Boss Qian was indeed a king. This could be seen from when Mr. Rin killed Butcher, Joy, and Monk Elong. The White Mountain Enforcers all had their own domain. Mo Lang could not dodge, but it was basically impossible to kill Mo Lang in an instant. Bang, bang. Mo Lang's body suddenly lit up with the light of the forbidden map. Those counterweights directly turned into powder within 30 feet of him. However, Mo Lang's forbidden map also dimmed a lot. Boss Qian's eyes lit up. Immediately, he reached out with one hand. The needle in the middle of the falling mortal scale was already in his hand, and instantly turned into a white longsword. Falling mortal sword, white mountain power. Kill! Boss Qian roared. Chapter 1145. The shocking white light broke through the sky. That sword was imbued with the power of White Mountain. Boss Qian finally used his trump card. This sword could kill almost any cultivator in Fallen Mortal Town. The shadow of White Mountain could be faintly seen within the white sword light. Even a Lotus warrior at the peak of the 9th tier would become a ghost under his sword. That day, Mr. Rin used the power of White Mountain to kill Chun Lu and Ilo. Whoosh! The white sword broke through the sky. The entire village seemed to have become two different worlds under the sword light. Even Mo Lang's expression changed slightly at this kind of power. The Eastern Border Enforcers lived up to their reputation. Any one of them had the power to suppress Fallen Mortal. However, since Mo Lang dared to come alone, he must have made full preparations. This power of White Mountain was naturally within his expectations. Whoosh! The moment Boss Qian's fallen mortal sword flew over, Mo Lang had already formed a seal with his hand. It was very rare for Mo Lang to form seals now, because he didn't need it. However, this time, Mo Lang was extremely serious and quickly formed a seal. Boom! In an instant, the mortal coffin opened and a ray of gray light flew out. That ray of light didn't belong to the mortal coffin. It only existed in the mortal coffin. The aura of the gray light was completely different from the mortal coffin. They were only similar in color. Once the gray light appeared, the entire mortal coffin trembled slightly. It seemed like even this top-grade Lianbua couldn't withstand the power of the gray light. Boss Qian was already certain of defeating Mo Lang after using the power of White Mountain, because the power of White Mountain was the greatest law in Fallen Mortal Town. It was the power bestowed by White Mountain. This power existed to intimidate Fallen Mortal Town. Unless a cultivator from the True Law Realm or the Dharma Lotus Venerable appeared, no cultivator in the infinite worlds could resist the power of White Mountain. However, Mo Lang surprised Boss Qian, because Mo Lang's mortal coffin also released a ray of White Mountain's power. However, this ray of White Mountain's power seemed to have been specially refined. It actually had Mo Lang's aura. No matter what, Boss Qian didn't expect that Mo Lang also had what he had, and that he had already refined that aura into something that belonged to him. This meant that Mo Lang's Tao power was no longer a consumable, but an existence equivalent to a magic treasure. Boom! Crack! So everything happened in an instant. The power of White Mountain that was added to Boss Qian's fallen mortal sword was directly defeated by Mo Lang's gray light. Smoke and dust filled the air, and the entire Merriment Meridian shook. If it wasn't a great world right now, it wouldn't be able to withstand such a showdown of power. At the same time, the fallen mortal sword broke into two. In the blink of an eye, Mo Lang didn't give Boss Qian any chance. He rushed forward, and borrowing the power of the gray White Mountain, he directly rushed out of the plate and landed in front of Boss Qian. He broke through Boss Qian's domain. Suppress. The mortal coffin descended from the sky and covered Boss Qian. With his domain broken, Boss Qian's face was ashen. He did not understand why Mo Lang also had the power of White Mountain. Was he the White Mountain law enforcer? Unfortunately, no one would give him an answer. Forbidden diagram, light, shone everywhere. It was impossible for Boss Qian to escape. Multiple powers had already imprisoned Boss Qian. The mortal coffin opened and directly swallowed Boss Qian. No! At the last moment, Boss Qian was indignant and wanted to use the power of White Mountain. However, that was impossible. Inside the mortal coffin, there was a world of its own. He only felt endless darkness engulf him in an instant, and then he lost all consciousness. Death. Boss Qian's soul was extinguished. Crack, crack. Once Boss Qian died, the fallen mortal scale began to collapse, because that was his natal magic treasure. At this moment, everything was gone with the wind. No matter how strong an expert was, after they died, they would be gone without a trace. Mo Lang looked at everything with a cold expression. Then, he put away the mortal coffin. Turning around, Mo Lang disappeared from the village. Star River Village, Illusionary Mansion. Wang Shui and Shun Ming were accompanying White Lotus Boy to eat and drink to their heart's content. In just a few days, White Lotus Boy seemed to have gained weight. His round face was full of meat. Junior sister Shui, can your grandfather handle it himself? White Lotus Boy was a little full. He patted his stomach and said, "Why don't we go out and take a look?" "Don't worry," Wang Shui said proudly. "My grandfather is the second genius in all the realms. The power of White Mountain that you gave him has long been refined by him, and he can use it as he pleases. Unless the true body of a Law King comes, no one in Fallen Mortal Town can do anything to him. As long as a Law King comes to Fallen Mortal Town, you will be the first to notice it." White Lotus Boy nodded. "That's true. If any Law King comes, I will notice it, and then I will kill him. Hee hee. I really miss the taste of lotus seed soup." With the Law King Lotus Heart, I can make it for you. Shen Ming said from the side. If you can get a complete Lotus Heart, I can fry it for you. It will be more fragrant. Really? White Lotus Boy's eyes widened. Of course. Shen Ming patted his chest. At this moment, if vast universe's Law Kings heard their conversation, they would probably want to join forces to kill Shen Ming and White Lotus Boy. The Lotus Heart that they cultivated for countless years actually became food in their mouths. Then let's really make one a taste. White Lotus Boy's throat moved. Then he suddenly turned to Wang Shui and said, "Oh right, Junior Sister Shui, you just said that Devil Lang is the second genius in all the realms. Then who is the first?" "Of course it is my father," Wang Shui said proudly. "Oh, then where is your father?" White Lotus Boy said, "My father is sealed by the Black Lotus. He should be in Heartless Peak. My grandfather said that he is in Mozhan Village." Wang Shui let out a breath. "Master promised to help me save my father. Unfortunately, the time is not ripe yet." Black Lotus Seal? White Lotus Boy heard and couldn't help but sneer. "What is the Black Lotus?" "That year, he was defeated by me and then directly sent into the samsara." Junior Sister Shui, don't worry. As long as the Black Lotus descends, I will be the first to help you break the seal and save your father. Hee hee. Wang Shui heard and hurriedly laughed. "Senior Brother Boy, I know you love me. At that time, I will rely on Senior Brother Boy." "Don't worry. No problem," White Lotus Boy said. Wang Shui smiled and nodded. However, she didn't have any confidence in her heart, because she knew that behind the Black Lotus must be black-robed Great Lotus God. Otherwise, how could a Black Lotus make her master have scruples? Could the power of the Three Realms Galaxy save AMU? Wang Shui wasn't sure. However, she would gather all the power that could be gathered. Wang Shui glanced in the direction of Mozhan Village, her expression slightly cold. On White Mountain, in the cave dwelling, white-robed Great Lotus God was originally sitting cross-legged, but the moment Boss Qian died, he slowly opened his eyes. There was a hint of a smile in his eyes. "Hee hee. Junior brother, one of your pieces has been removed." White-robed Great Lotus God said to himself, "I don't know if it was White Lotus's good deed, but I am ahead in this chess game." At the same moment, a cold snort came from another cave dwelling. Chapter 1146. Within Mo Mountain Village. The black figure waited for a long time, but Boss Qian never returned. Thus, he had an ominous premonition. Logically speaking, Boss Qian was the White Mountain Enforcer, so there shouldn't be any problems. But now that Fallen Mortal Town was in chaos, everything was hard to say. Otherwise, there was no reason for Boss Qian not to return. The black figure looked at the two overlapping black mountain peaks in the distance. His real body couldn't descend yet, and he was a Black Shadow clone. He couldn't go more than 3 miles away from Mo Mountain Village, so he couldn't do much. Whoosh! The Black Shadow clone could only sweep up a ball of ink soul grass and send it out of the village. As for whether that ball of ink soul grass could return, it depended on luck. After all, even Boss Qian didn't return. And 10 miles away from Mo Mountain Village, that ball of ink soul grass was melted by the forbidden map set up by Mo Lang. Now, there were 2 great formations outside Mo Mountain Village. It was as good as being locked. On Heartless Peak, Black Lotus sat cross-legged on Heartless. His Heartless Peak was already at the peak of Mo Mountain. Now, he only had to wait for Happy Girl or Love Monk to descend. Dharmaraja descend. Black Lotus knew very well what that meant. Invincible in Fallen Mortal Town. At this moment, he was full of ambition. But at this moment, a voice came from the peak of Heartless Peak. "Black Lotus, my spy in Fallen Mortal Town, has actually fallen. Quickly send Black Cat down to scout the situation. If there are any abnormalities, you have to descend quickly." Black Lotus Heartless Peak was shocked. "Disciple obeys." Black Lotus responded. Then he patted Black Cat beside him. "Black Cat, go and return quickly. If there's danger, don't fight." "Yes, Master." The Black Cat bird spoke human language. Then, with a flap of its wings, it rushed down Heartless Peak. Windmill Village, Windmill Palace. Bai Lai sat alone outside Windmill Palace. At this moment, his figure was somewhat lonely, because he was the only one left in the huge windmill village. This was already the 9th time. The first 8 times, Bai Lai had to endure endless sorrow. This time, would it be a repeat of the previous 8 times? 12 hours had passed since Windmill Hey Nong and the others had started the formation. A shadow had already appeared on the windwheel bell above the Windwheel Palace. That was because Sumo's soul had already manifested, but it had yet to completely solidify. As long as her soul solidified, it meant that Sumo's soul had returned. After swallowing the soul recovery pill, Sumo would be reborn. Taking a step back, even if Sumo's physical body was not completed in the end, he could think of other ways. As long as the soul existed, the physical body could be refined again. However, at this time, Sumo's physical body was also forming. The bodies of the 8 sons of Windmill had completely fused into one person. However, his entire body was covered in white light, and his facial features could not be seen clearly. He would be Sumo's body. Everything was going smoothly. Little Su, we can meet in 24 hours. Bai Lai sighed. Sumo had returned, but it was a pity that the other 8 sons of Windmill could not return. 8 sons in exchange for 1 son. One could not have the best of both worlds. Perhaps this was the fate of the Windmill lineage. Bai Lai looked outside the Windmill village. Mr. Rin had always been sitting cross-legged at the boundary stone of the Windmill village. His eyes were slightly closed, and his breathing was steady. It seemed that unless Sumo's resurrection was completed, he would not leave. At this moment, Mr. Rin already knew that Bai Yifeng was no longer here. However, he would pour all his infatuation into the faith of the Windmill lineage. Sigh. Bai Lai shook his head and sighed. Little Bai, I really don't know if you're a lucky or unlucky person. However, that Mr. Run is indeed a trustworthy person. What a pity, a bird flew out of the Mozhan village. It had a cat's head, fangs, and blood-red eyes. It had a wingspan of 3 meters and a long hook on its tail. It was the heartless spirit beast, the black catbird. It flew out of the Mozhan village like a ghost. At that moment, it did not even seem to disturb the air in the void. However, it alarmed the demon lover's forbidden map. Chi. As soon as the black catbird left the Mozhan village, it sensed the abnormality of the surrounding atmosphere. This spirit beast's divine sense was far stronger than that of ordinary lotus warriors. The black catbird's blood-red eyes turned. However, it could not see the demon lover's forbidden map, but instinctively felt that everything around it was a bit strange. It spread its wings and flew straight in the direction of Mount Merriment. The black catbird was a mutated species of the various worlds. It was the best at investigating the enemy's situation and transmitting information. It flew across the starry sky, and with a light movement, it had already reached the periphery of Mount Merriment. However, the black catbird did not fly into the village, but only hovered outside. It was actually much more sensitive and alert than Bosch-Chien. The great world. The black catbird's blood-red eyes moved. It sensed that the village in front of it had already formed a great world. In other words, this place could allow Dharmarajas to descend. This piece of information was actually already enough. As for whether there were other cultivators in the village, it was not the black catbird's concern. Therefore, it immediately turned around and was about to leave. What a good catbird! Dozens of feet away, the demon lover stood tall and looked coldly at the black catbird. At this moment, the black catbird's surroundings were already rippling with all kinds of forbidden maps. Demon lover? The black catbird actually called out the demon lover's name. Oh, the demon lover was also a little surprised. It seems that there are indeed many secrets in the Mozhan village. A spirit beast like you can actually speak the human language and know my name. Whoosh! The black catbird did not speak to the demon lover at all. Instead, it opened its mouth and directly spat out a ray of fire. The fire grew with the wind and shot out hundreds of feet like a long river. At the same time, the black catbird followed the fire and headed straight for the demon lover. It seemed that the black catbird was definitely a hot-tempered bird. It knew how to take the initiative to attack. However, how could that kind of attack hurt the demon lover? The demon lover gently waved one hand and directly swept up an endless whirlwind. In the starry sky, the fire was directly blown away by the demon lover's celestial wind. However, the demon lover's expression could not help but change. Because at the same time that the fire dispersed, the black catbird actually disappeared without a trace. It turned out that the attack just now was the black catbird's retreat for the sake of advancing. What a cunning bird. The black catbird used the feint attack just now to escape, and it could actually escape the restriction of the demon lover's forbidden map. This was indeed something that the demon lover did not expect. Search! The demon lover shouted coldly in his heart. Once again, the starry sky above the fallen mortal town lit up with the light of the forbidden map at the same time. Unknowingly, the demon lover's forbidden map actually covered the entire fallen mortal world. In the world listening tower, Josh Shusheng looked at the fallen mortal's sand table that continuously lit up with mysterious light and could not help but gasp. The demon lover's forbidden map was so powerful. The black catbird headed straight for the Mozhan village. Its speed was actually even faster than the demon lover's forbidden map. However, just as it was about to fly into the Mozhan village, the light of the forbidden map outside the Mozhan village suddenly lit up. That was the forbidden map formation. At the same time, a male and female cultivator were already standing outside the Mozhan village. Chapter 1147. The male cultivator was dressed in a light blue robe, while the female cultivator wore a watercolor dress. They looked extremely calm, as if they had been waiting for the black cat for a long time. Their bodies shone with endless colorful light, like flames. Lotus Night Stage 9. Hiss, meow. The black catbird screeched when it saw the two cultivators. It was extremely fearful of the aura emanating from the two cultivators. However, it wasn't a complete suppression from their realm, but a restriction from their bloodline. The bloodline of the phoenix. In all the realms, the phoenix was the absolute king of all birds. Xiantian and Xingchun were the undying phoenixes. The black catbird was still a bird at the end of the day. Therefore, the black catbird was completely suppressed by the phoenix's bloodline. At this moment, the black catbird retracted its wings, trembling and trembling all over. Meow. Its voice was mournful, but it couldn't struggle. At this moment, it could no longer speak the human language. It didn't know that there was a pair of phoenixes in fallen mortal town. Hee, a cat dares to act rashly? Xing Chun sneered, then gently raised her arm and emitted a beam of phoenix flames that enveloped the black catbird. Incinerate. Xing Chun didn't stand on ceremony and shouted. The black catbird had already turned into ashes in the phoenix flames. At this moment, Mo Lang had arrived. Mo Lang, we've destroyed the black catbird, Xian Tian said. Fortunately, the two ancestors intervened, or it would have flown back to Mo village. Mo Lang said. Sigh. Xian Tian sighed. Mo Lang, whether it flies back to Mo village or not, I'm guessing the Black Lotus will descend. If the black catbird flies back, it can explain everything. If it doesn't, Mo village will know that something has happened. So let's prepare for war. Galaxy Village has waited for too long. Yes. Mo Lang nodded and sighed. That's right. In Windwheel Village, Sumo has already begun to revive. Taking advantage of the fact that Sumo hasn't fully revived is the best time for Mo Village to act. At the same time, it's also our best chance. Xian Tian's lips curled up. That's right. Mo Lang looked in the direction of Mo Shan Village, and his pupils constricted. The Three Realms Galaxy will shine again. Whatever you owe Xing He, you have to pay me back. Mo Mountain Village. The Black Shadow clone felt uneasy at the foot of Mo Mountain, because he saw the black catbird rushing out of the heartless mountain world. However, after 6 hours, the black catbird was nowhere to be seen. Something happened to the black catbird. The Black Shadow clone was shocked. If there was a possibility that Boss Qian would betray them, then the black catbird would definitely not. The mysterious cat would not betray its master, and it was a top-notch scout. The shadow clone was confident that it could escape even if it was discovered by a peak Lotus Realm cultivator. The mystic cat had its own abilities. However, in reality, it was gone forever. Outside Emo Shan village, it was dead silent. He knew that it was Boss Qian who told him about the formation outside Emo Mountain Village. However, he did not know that Xing He and Feng Luan had already begun their counterattack. On the Heartless Peak, Black Lotus' heartless expression became even more unsightly, because the mysterious cat had not returned. The black catbird was his most beloved pet. His love for the mystic cat was even greater than that of his former disciples. For tens of thousands of years, one man and one bird sat alone on the Heartless Peak. The Heartless Mountain was destroyed. He only took the Heartless Peak and left the mysterious cat. He had absolute trust in the mysterious cat, whether it was loyalty or ability. However, the mysterious cat did not return. Black Lotus Heartless could not help but stand up, his brows furrowed. Then he paced back and forth on the mountainside. That was something that would only happen when he was extremely anxious. The last time, it seemed like it had only appeared when he was about to see Ilamu. Other than the black catbird, no one knew that he had such a habit. Black Lotus knew that things were not looking good. The unknown place. Joy, Love Monk, Elder Lien. Black Lotus' heartless voice sounded. It had been a long time since his voice had sounded here. Therefore, as soon as his voice appeared, there was an immediate response. Heartless, how are you? Elder Lien's voice sounded. Have you reached Fallen Mortal Town? Hee. Black Lotus, you're still alive? Joy Girl said. Umapa. Love Monk chanted. Heartless, you're finally here. Apologies, everyone. Heartless voice said, now, I'm already above Fallen Mortal Town. I'm just one step away from descending. However, before that, I need you to open up a path for me to become a Dharmaraja. Mozan Village is still not a large world. He. Joy Girl giggled. Black Lotus, we've already prepared for this. Godly Void Village has already been destroyed. Love Monk and I have already sent people to merge Joy and Sumeru villages. I believe it will be completed in a few days. However, we have yet to receive a reply. Once we receive a reply and the two villages complete the merging, Love Monk and I can descend at any time to open up a passageway for you. Don't wait for a reply. Black Lotus said in a low voice, there's most likely a change in Fallen Mortal Town. My spies in Luo Fan Town have all been eliminated. Now, the entire Fallen Mortal Town is concealed by the Heaven Concealment Array. Your people have most likely been killed. If I'm not wrong, Joy and Sumeru villages have already merged into one. You can descend now. Amiba, Love Monk chanted, expressing the shock in his heart. Elong's battle prowess was far above Emu and Yeshio. There was actually someone in Fallen Mortal Town who could kill him silently. One must know that Elong's soul lamp was not extinguished. There's actually such a thing. Joy Girl was also shocked. That was because Chun Lu was the disciple she was most proud of. Her cultivation was definitely inherited from her. Chun Lu and Elong were actually both killed. Furthermore, no news had been transmitted back. The enforcers of East Fence Town have most likely taken action. Black Lotus's voice said, so don't hesitate anymore. Things might change if you delay. Amiba, Love Monk's voice turned cold. Heartless, this little monk is willing to be the first to descend. To open the path to becoming a guardian emperor for you. I'll follow closely behind. Joy Girl retracted her charming voice. This old man will also descend to Fallen Mortal Town with Joy, Elder Lotus said. The three of them quickly reached an agreement. Now, the four of them were bound together in glory and shame. They had prepared for countless years to enter the true law world, and now they were at the final step. So, no one held back anymore. Their respective worlds had already been purified to the point that not much was left. Actually, there was not much time left for them to stay. If they did not enter the true law world soon, they would start to exhaust themselves. So, they could only fight. All right, I'll leave it to the three of you, Black Lotus said at the end. There's always a kind of tranquility before a storm. At this moment, the fallen mortal world was at this moment. Suddenly, an endless whirlpool appeared in the sky above Joy Sumeru village. A door to a world was opening, emitting endless golden light. That was the power of a guardian emperor. In Galaxy Village, White Lotus Boy could not help but raise his eyebrows. Chapter 1148. Dharma Lotus King? White Lotus Boy's mouth twitched coldly. Then he stood up. "What's wrong, brother boy?" Wang Shui asked. "A Dharma King has descended?" White Lotus Boy laughed. Hee hee, this time I can probably get the real Dharma King's lotus seed heart. I want to drink some soup. With that, White Lotus Boy took a step out of Galaxy Village. Wang Shui's face tightened, and she followed closely behind. Although White Lotus Boy's combat power was not bad, he might not be able to win against another Dharma Lotus King. After all, everyone was at the same level. White Lotus Boy took a step forward, and besides Wang Shui, no one could keep up. Shen Ming stared blankly at the two of them disappearing. Actually, she wanted to join in the fun, but after thinking about it, she obediently sat where she was. At her current level, she could only be a quiet cook. Whoosh, whoosh. At the same time, two figures flew out of Galaxy Village, the two ancestors Songhai and Yun San. Sigh. Shen Ming shook her head, and she could only start cleaning the table. Mother. She looked up and saw Huan Hua walking out of the house. You want to go too? Mother won't go. Huan Hua shook her head. Your father and a few ancestors have left the village. Let's just wait in this village. If they can't solve it, it's useless for us to go. White Lotus Boy said that the Dharma Lotus King has descended. Shen Ming said, Mother, this time, everyone in Galaxy Village has left the cave. Can they save sister and brother-in-law? Your father said, they can. Huan Hua pulled Shen Ming to sit beside her and said with certainty, Merriment Village. Endless golden light appeared in the center of the village, and a door opened between heaven and earth. Then, a monk walked out of the golden light. He wore a moon-white robe, clean and spotless. He had delicate features that made people forget about him. His eyes were clear, without any impurities. Love Monk did not have any lustful look. At this moment, he put his palms together like a real Buddha descending. Amitabha, Love Monk chanted loudly. The chant spread throughout the entire Merriment world. Buddhist chants reverberated endlessly. However, the entire world was empty. There was no response at all. Sure enough, a dragon had fallen, and the joyful spring dew was also gone. Passion Monk could not help but frown slightly. Black Lotus was right. This was already a great world, but two of the cultivators on their side had already been killed. Did the White Mountain law enforcer make a move? Love Monk turned to look in the direction of Emo Shan Village. Then, with a shake of his hand, a ray of Buddhist light shot out. There was only one ray of Buddhist light, but it instantly turned into a long river, directly flying out of Merry Meridian Village, heading straight for Emo Mountain Village. This was the power of a law emperor. At this moment, no power in fallen mortal town could stop him. The Devil Boy's forbidden painting and the Scholar's great formation were useless against Passion Monk's Dharma King power. Bang! However, at that moment, a white shadow appeared from the direction of the Galaxy Village. The white figure punched out fiercely, and the fist light was like a dragon, heading straight for the Buddhist light. Boom! Crack! The two forces collided, causing the starry sky to tremble. Endless immortal chi rolled out, like a sea of clouds suddenly appearing in the starry sky. All the villages in Fallen Mortal Town felt this incomparably powerful impact, because that was not a power that should have appeared in Fallen Mortal Town. Inside the World Listening Tower, Jia Shusheng raised his eyebrows. Muse, our heaven concealment great formation probably can't be hidden anymore. In Merry Meridian Village, a law emperor has descended. You stay in a World Listening Tower, don't leave. I'll go take a look. Yes. Be careful, young master. Muse nodded. Jia Shusheng held the World Listening Divine Brush and directly left the World Listening Tower. Outside the Galaxy Village, Mr. Ren looked in the direction of Merry Meridian Village, and his expression also changed slightly. Was that the power of F.A. Lien Venerable? Otherwise, he could not think of what kind of power could cause such a vibration. Among them, one of the powers should be White Lotus Child. Mr. Wren's cheeks tightened. No matter what happened, he just had to protect Windwheel Village. Broken Sleeve Village. Snow Shadow and Leehan looked up at the same time. Had a Law Emperor descended? The couple looked at each other, and their figures moved, leaving the village at the same time. Mozhan Village. The Black Shadow clone heard the movement outside and immediately stood up. A Law Emperor descended? He looked back at Heartless Peak. At this moment, Heartless Peak also lit up with a black brilliance. His real body was ready to descend at any time. Finally, there was progress. Boom! Boom! Explosions sounded continuously in fallen mortal world, and countless vortexes of power appeared in the starry sky. Actually, that was just a clash of power between White Lotus Child and Love Monk. If fallen mortal town had not expanded endlessly, it would not have been able to withstand such power. At the same time, White Lotus Child had already rushed into Merry Meridian Village. Crack! As White Lotus Child entered, some parts of the Merry Meridian Village began to collapse. Because 2 Fa Lien Venerables was a power that a great world could not withstand. Love Monk jerked his head. In front of him stood a boy in white who looked only 8 or 9 years old. That boy looked like a porcelain doll. However, under his feet was a white lotus, and his entire body was emitting the aura of Fa Lien Venerables. Fa Lien Venerables? Love Monk looked at White Lotus Child in disbelief. Who are you? You are a Fa Lien Venerables. How can you appear in Fallen Mortal Town? Hee hee. White Lotus Child sneered. I am a boy under White Mountain's Great Lotus Venerables, White Lotus. I came to Fallen Mortal Town on orders from my master to patrol. Previously, I did not appear as a Law Emperor, so naturally, I can come. You all want to kill people and destroy the world, so you need a Law Emperor to descend. It is impossible without a great world. White Mountain, a boy under Great Lotus Venerables? Love Monk's expression changed several times. He had never been to White Mountain, so he did not know the situation there. Facing a Fa Lien Venerables on White Mountain, he could not help but be shocked. What was going on? Black Lotus did not say that there would be a Fa Lien Venerables in Fallen Mortal Town. A Fa Lien Venerables was not important. The key was White Mountain's attitude. Senior Brother Child, kill this monk. At this moment, Wang Shui had already rushed into the village. He is the head of the Meridian Monk. Kill him. Boom. White Lotus Child did not like to speak too much nonsense. Since Junior Sister Wang said so, there was no need to say more. Just kill. White Lotus Child raised his hand and punched at Love Monk. Love Monk was at the Fa Lien Venerables realm. In the Meridian realm, he was in existence above millions and not below anyone. He had formed an alliance with Black Lotus, Joy, and Elder Lotus tens of thousands of years ago. The purification of the Meridian realm had long been completed. He had always been waiting for the day when he descended to Fallen Mortal Town and rushed to White Mountain. But he did not expect that the moment he descended, he would encounter a Fa Lien Venerables from White Mountain. This was definitely not within his expectations. Boom! Love Monk wanted to test White Lotus Child's battle power again, so he directly punched out. Godly Shumi Fist. Love Monk's body glowed with a myriad of golden lights, because he had long obtained the invincible Vajra body. Boom! Ka! This time, the two of them directly punched each other. In an instant, the atmosphere of the entire Meridian village changed. Wild winds raged, and the entire great world was splitting. The Meridian world was directly split into two. Chapter 1149. A clash of fists could cause a great world to collapse. The battle between Law Emperors shook Wang Shui's soul, let alone the other fallen mortal cultivators. It was a power that belonged to the true Law realm. Love Monk's expression changed, while White Lotus Boy sneered. Love Monk was invincible in the Sumeru world. Because he was the only Law Emperor in the entire world, Love Monk had never met a true opponent since he became a Law Emperor. However, he met one today. White Lotus Boy was different from Love Monk. He was born and raised on White Mountain. A Law Emperor level battle was not unfamiliar to him. It was even normal. The punch seemed to be evenly matched, but White Lotus Boy had the upper hand psychologically. Monk, let's go again. As he spoke, Boy White Lotus took a step forward and blasted out another punch. He did not have any psychological burden. Even if Fallen Mortal Town was destroyed, it was nothing to White Lotus Boy. Most importantly, White Lotus Boy only wanted to drink a bowl of lotus seed soup. However, it was different for Love Monk. He was the first to arrive and was the vanguard of the Black Lotus sect. He shouldered the task of opening the Law Emperor Passage. At this moment, if he was entangled or killed by White Lotus Boy, then their side would suffer heavy losses. Therefore, Love Monk could not really fight against White Lotus Boy. White Lotus Boy's fist wind came again, but Love Monk did not exchange blows with him. Instead, he directly dodged to the side. At the same time, he waved his robe and directly took out a magic treasure. It looked like a piece of bluestone. However, it grew with the wind and turned into a mountain in the blink of an eye. Above the mountain, Buddhist light lingered and Sanskrit sounds could be heard. Many golden Buddhist runes surrounded it. Mount Meru. That was Love Monk's life magic treasure. This treasure was extraordinary. Suppress. Love Monk shouted softly. Mount Meru went straight for White Lotus Boy. At that moment, it was like a 5-element mountain pressing down on the demon monkey. White Lotus Boy's small eyebrows could not help but frown, because he sensed the extraordinary power of that magic treasure. Law Emperor's life magic treasure? White Lotus Boy's fist wind had already been unleashed, so naturally, he could not retract it. Boom! Boom! His fist wind hit Mount Meru. Buzz, buzz, buzz. At that moment, Mount Meru paused slightly, and at the same time shook in the void. However, it was a Dharmaraja's personal treasure after all. Boy White Lotus's fist could break ordinary Lianbua, but it couldn't shatter Mount Meru. Mount Meru blocked Boy White Lotus's punch, but it couldn't do anything to him. However, Passion Monk did not follow. On the contrary, not only did he not move forward, but he also rapidly retreated. His target was not White Lotus Boy, but Emo Shan Village. There was no need to mention Passion Monk's cultivation. Other than the White Lotus Boy, no one else could stop him. Ka-ka. In the void, Passion Monk's flying, demonic Lang's forbidden painting, and Scholar's great array were all broken by him. Actually, at this moment, Devil Lang, Scholar, Vast Ocean, Cloud Sand, Mysterious Sky, Xing Chan Lihin, and Shuang were already in the mortal descending starry sky. However, none of them could stop Passion Monk. At that moment, even if he were to risk his life, it would be impossible. Passion Monk's magic power was too strong, and his speed was too fast. They were still too weak in front of Dharma Lotus. Boom! White Lotus Boy and Wang Shui followed closely behind, but they were still half a moment behind Passion Monk. But this half a moment was enough to change many things. Passion Monk arrived in front of Emo Shan Village in one step and then waved his hand. Whoosh! Boom! An incomparably vigorous Dharma King power directly poured into Emo Shan Village. Boom! Hum! Looking again, the entire Emo Shan Village shook. The Black Shadow clone suddenly stood up in Emo Shan Village. The heartless peak above Emo Shan Village suddenly sank down thousands of feet. The two peaks were about to merge. The Shadow clone felt the power of Dharma Lotus King. However, the Dharma King's descending passage had not been completely opened, because this was still not enough. Passion Monk raised an eyebrow. White Lotus Boy still dragged him in. At the same time, White Lotus Boy crossed Mount Meru and entered the attack range. He threw a very simple punch at Passion Monk. Umapa. Passion Monk's mouth twitched. In terms of combat power, he might not be a match for White Lotus Boy, but in terms of scheming, White Lotus Boy could not catch up to him. At this moment, what he needed was this punch. When he looked again, he saw Passion Monk striking out with his palm at White Lotus Boy. At the same time, his other hand formed a Buddhist seal. Rotation. A swastika suddenly appeared in the palm of his palm that was aimed at White Lotus Boy. Senior Brother Boy, stop! Wang Shui shouted from behind. However, White Lotus Boy's punch had already been thrown. How could it be retracted so easily? One punch was a galaxy river. The cultivators watching the battle in the galaxy were all shocked. They believed that it would be difficult for them to escape unscathed under such a punch. They would either die or be injured. Boom! White Lotus Boy's punch hit Passion Monk's swastika. In an instant, the swastika turned into a black hole-like existence. The power of White Lotus Boy's punch was completely poured into it. The path of Dharma Kings. Passion Monk's mouth curved. There was a loud bang outside Emotion Village. The power of White Lotus Boy's punch had been completely transferred to Emotion Village by Passion Monk's rotation immortal technique, borrowing force to fight force. White Lotus Boy had actually assisted Passion Monk in paving the path of Dharma Kings. Buzz, boom. The entire Emotion Village was shaken. The lack of power of Passion Monk was directly made up for. Heartless Peak instantly sank and completely fell. Heartless Peak and Emo Mountain completely overlapped. In an instant, endless black light suddenly spread in Emotion Village. Black torches shot straight into the starry sky. At that moment, it was as if someone had opened the black gate to the earth. Black Lotus's shadow clone did not hesitate. He moved and directly rushed into the black peak. At that moment, he was like a moth flying into the black fire. However, in reality, he was not a moth, but a guiding force. At that moment, all the cultivators in Luo Fantown were shocked. Jia Shusheng held the world-listening divine brush in his hand, and his expression suddenly changed. He knew that Black Lotus was about to descend. However, he had no ability to stop it. So, he turned around and went straight in the direction of Windwheel Village, because he knew that Mr. Run would definitely defend Windwheel Village to the death. However, this time, he most likely would not be able to defend it. Ha, ha, ha. At the same time, a burst of wild laughter came from Emotion Village. That was Black Lotus's heartless laughter. The main body is back. A black figure was gradually transforming. Whoosh, whoosh, endless black wind directly blew out from Emotion Village. The black wind covered the sky and earth like a violent whirlpool in the depths of vast universe. What should come has finally come. Venerable Songhai looked at everything, his eyes slightly narrowed. Beside him stood the devastatingly beautiful Yun San. Is AMU here? Yun San asked. Yes, he is at the bottom of the Black Peak. Songhai nodded. You want to learn from that Black Lotus's shadow clone? Huh. Songhai nodded and laughed. If I don't enter Black Mountain, who will? Sumo is not here. Then, only I can resonate with AMU and break out of the seal. Once Sumo is reborn and AMU breaks the seal, then the Three Realms Galaxy can return to vast universe. Songhai's tone was a little proud. That was the pride from ancient vast sea, the pride from the Three Realms Galaxy. I will wait for you to come back. Yunsen nodded and said nothing. Whoosh! Venerable Songhai turned into a blue light and went straight to Black Mountain. Chapter 1150. Outside Windmill Village. Mr. Rin had already stood up. The aura from Mozhan Village had not spread to Windmill Village yet. However, as the East Border Enforcer, Mr. Rin had already seen everything. The Black Lotus was back, and the final change had begun. Mr. Rin looked into Windmill Village. He did not know how long it would take for Windmill to be completed. However, as long as he was alive, he would stand outside Windmill Village. He would be the last guardian of Windmill Village. At this moment, a figure flashed and appeared in front of him. Scholar. Mr. Rin frowned. Why are you here? Hee. Jia Shusheng held the world-listening pen in one hand and a wine jar in the other. Fisherman, I'm here to drink with you. Scholar, you don't have to drink with me. Mr. Rin naturally understood what the scholar meant and said in a low voice. Scholar, go back to your world-listening tower and don't care about Luo Fantown. Even if the world changes, Venerable Lotus can still protect your life. But if you drink with me here, I'm afraid you will die. So what if I die? Jia Shusheng smiled. You and I have been friends for a while. Fisherman, stop talking nonsense. Come. Jia Shusheng raised the wine jar and drank a few mouthfuls, then directly threw the wine jar to Mr. Rin. Mr. Rin took the wine jar and sighed. Scholar, I'm the one who got you into trouble. Ha! Jia Shusheng suddenly laughed. Don't say useless things. However, I suddenly remembered. Am I the only scholar in Luofan Town now? Haha, Windmill Village, Windmill Palace. Sumo's godly soul had basically solidified. That soul recovery pill had even integrated with Sumo's godly soul. At this moment, the appearance of Sumo's godly soul was already very clear. It was in the state of being awake and unconscious. The body in the center of the hall of Windmill Palace had already completely fused. However, it did not have any spiritual intelligence. Its facial features were also not clear, but its whole body emitted a faint green light. It was a physical body comparable to the Dharma Lotus Golden Body. However, it was now a dead object. However, as long as Sumo's soul awakened, she would be able to fuse with it and become the real Dharma Lotus Golden Body. Sumo was still as handsome as ever. Bai Lai's expression became even more solemn, because there was only one last step left. He didn't want to fail at the last moment. However, he still needed 6 hours. Bai Lai's pupils contracted slightly. He had already sensed the changes in Luofan Town. The Heaven Concealment Formation couldn't hide it for more than 3 days. The arrival of the Passion Monk meant that he knew everything. The Black Lotus had also descended. The Law Emperor-level battle team was currently unfolding in Fallen Mortal Town. Can the forces outside the Windmill Village really stop 2 Dharmarian kings? In fact, they only needed to delay for 6 hours. If Sumo wakes up, she must be a Dharmaraja. However, could he endure 12 hours? After all, that could be an extremely long 12 hours. Bai Lai only hoped that time would pass faster. Rumble, crack. Inside Mo Mountain Village, there was a loud sound. The mist of the entire Mo Mountain had already dissipated. Heartless Peak and Mo Mountain merged into one, becoming a new black mountain. Halfway up the mountain, a black-robed, middle-aged cultivator stood majestically. His body exuded an unparalleled Law Emperor aura. Black Lotus Heartless, the Law Lotus Venerable who came out of Mo Mountain Village. He was the purifier of a hidden world. In fact, everything was driven by him. Black Lotus? White Lotus Boy saw Black Lotus and smiled disdainfully. Is it really him? Brother Boy, do you really know Black Lotus? Wang Shui hurriedly asked. There is White Lotus Boy on White Mountain, so naturally there is Black Lotus Boy. However, he was defeated by me back then and finally fell into reincarnation. White Lotus Boy sneered. No wonder he always wanted to return to the true law realm. Black Lotus Boy? Wang Shui couldn't help but frown when she heard this. Heartless turned out to be from White Mountain. It seemed that he was an important chess piece of Black Lotus Venerable. Sister Shui, I will kill this monk first. I will immediately deal with Black Lotus. White Lotus Boy's eyes finally emitted cold light and killing intent. With 2 Law Lotus Venerables in front of him, even he felt the pressure. He must kill one first. Otherwise, if the 2 of them join hands, even he might not have a chance of winning. However, White Lotus Boy knew that Wang Shui should be able to temporarily block Law Lotus Venerable. Kill! White Lotus Boy's heart moved, and his blood chi surged. At the same time, a seal was directly opened between his eyebrows. A natal White Lotus appeared under his feet. Both of his hands grabbed at the void. Who? White Lotus Boy's hand already had a golden long pestle. The long pestle's brilliance circulated and was covered with dense runes. Ghost Wrath. This was the first time Wang Shui saw Brother Boy take out this Lianbo divine weapon, which was one of the best in White Mountain. It seemed that this time, Senior Brother Tong Zi was serious. Amit Ba. Love Monk chanted the name of Buddha. The Black Lotus Heartless descended. Love Monk felt that the pressure on him was instantly reduced, and, at the same time, his side's chance of winning instantly doubled. Therefore, he was much more relaxed. He recalled Mount Meru and calmly looked at White Lotus Boy, looking like an eminent monk. White Lotus Boy laughed coldly. His boy's face showed a bit of ferocity. It was a look that was extremely incompatible with his face. Who? White Lotus Boy raised the pestle with both hands and slashed straight at Love Monk. It was an extremely simple move from top to bottom without any other changes. It was extremely powerful and simple, but the pestle was extremely fast. Love Monk sneered. Could this pestle shatter his Mount Meru? Therefore, he raised it with one hand. Mount Meru was suddenly activated and placed horizontally above his head, blocking White Lotus Boy's pestle. At the same time, Love Monk formed a seal with both hands. The swastika runes appeared again. They directly turned into a long dragon and went straight at White Lotus Boy. Since Mount Meru blocked the pestle, Love Monk's technique would definitely be able to restrain White Lotus Boy. A smile even appeared on Love Monk's lips. However, this smile came a little too early. Crack, crack, in the starry sky, White Lotus Boy's body suddenly expanded. His outer skin instantly cracked and fell off. An incomparably tall and ferocious-looking boy appeared. He had a tattooed head and angry eyes, and his fangs were bared. He looked like a monster. Boy's angry appearance. That was White Lotus Boy's original appearance. Love Monk was stunned. Love Monk dodge. The heartless voice sounded. Black Lotus knew White Lotus Boy's combat strength. Boom! Before Love Monk's swastika runes could reach White Lotus Boy, his ghost Wrath Pestle had already landed on Mount Meru. Tens of thousands of golden lights filled the sky with smoke and dust. At that moment, a powerful sound wave spread through the entire Luo fan town. The starry sky shattered countless times. However, everyone felt as if they had lost their hearing. They only saw an image. Mount Meru actually collapsed under White Lotus Boy's pestle, then turned into fragments and smoke. White Lotus Boy was like a fiend. At the same time, the golden pestle had already landed on Love Monk's head. Chapter 11:51. Bang! The Love Monk had never expected that the White Lotus Boy would possess such a shocking brute force. To be able to shatter Mount Meru with one strike of the pestle, this was almost unimaginable to Passion Monk. Mount Meru was a top-notch lianbua that he had refined by gathering the essence of the entire Shumi world. The scariest thing was that the power of the pestle did not diminish in the slightest. It was heading straight for his head. However, Love Monk could no longer avoid it. This was because the natal White Lotus under Boy White Lotus's feet had already spread to Passion Monk's feet. It had actually formed a binding effect for an instant. In theory, it was impossible for law emperors of the same level to imprison each other. The power of the Great Lotus Venerable. However, at that moment, no one knew that Child White Lotus's lotus actually contained a power bestowed by the Great Lotus Venerable. That power had imprisoned Passion Monk. In an instant, Passion Monk's face turned pale. However, there was no turning back. Bang! The wrath of the ghost pestle struck the Passion Monk's head. In an instant, Passion Monk's head was smashed into pieces by the pestle. Countless rays of golden light suddenly exploded. One must know that the Passion Monk was someone who had cultivated the golden body of Buddhism. This sound shook the vast universe. Countless small worlds were destroyed by the shock waves. The Love Monk's divine soul soared into the sky. Although his physical body was destroyed, his soul was still there. The heartless Black Lotus flew straight into the starry sky. He raised one hand and created a whirlwind to collect the Passion Monk soul. No matter what, he couldn't allow this soul to fall into his hands. However, at the same time, Wang Shui had already gotten up. She raised her hand and summoned an octagonal lantern. The lantern's entire body was fiery red. It was a ball of charcoal. In an instant, the entire Mo mountain world was illuminated. The runes were burning like flames. Blood Lantern. A strange look appeared in Black Lotus's eyes. The Blood Lantern was specialized in devouring the flesh, blood, and souls of cultivators at and above the Lotus Scholar level. It had no effect on cultivators below the Lotus Scholar level. The treasure of White Mountain. That was the white-robed Great Lotus Venerable's Dharma treasure. Who was that little girl in purple? She actually had the white-clothed Great Lotus Venerable's magic treasure. It seemed like his information was still lacking. However, the scene in front of him didn't allow him to think too much. Since he had already descended, there was no way out. He could only fight to the death and directly pursue the true method. Who? As soon as the Blood Lantern appeared, it immediately set off a bloody light that filled the sky. Black Lotus involuntarily took a step back. At the same time, he also took out a magic treasure. He did not dare to face the Blood Lantern head-on with his own strength. Otherwise, it was extremely likely that he would be directly killed by the Blood Lantern. Looking again, a black light shot out from within the bloody light. It was as if a black dragon had suddenly rolled out of a sea of blood. It was a small black sword that was 3 inches long. A black lotus was engraved on the small sword. Tian Yin's sword. Wang Shui also frowned. Black Lotus was indeed a subordinate of the black, clothed Great Lotus Venerable. The Celestial Yin sword was the black, clothed Grand Lotus Venerable's Dharma treasure. It was refined from the vengeful spirits of many worlds. Once this sword was unleashed, it could destroy heaven and earth. The Blood Lantern and the Heaven Yin sword were Lianbo divine weapons that were on par with each other. At this moment, this battle was no longer about the love savior. This was because between the two divine weapons, it was already very difficult for Passion Monk to protect himself. Any one of them could destroy his divine soul. Once the Blood Lantern appeared, Passion Monk's divine soul instantly distorted. Although he was a Law Emperor's divine soul, he could not withstand a single blow from the Grand Lotus Venerable's Dharma treasure. "Heartless, save me," Passion Monk shouted. However, that was also the last thing he said. With that, he was directly sucked into the Blood Lantern. In the void, Passion Monk's screams echoed. Any living being might have a kind of fear when facing true death. Even the Law Lotus Venerable was no exception. If he died in the Mo Mountain world, Passion Monk would no longer be reincarnated. Black Lotus' heartless expression was extremely gloomy. He naturally sincerely wanted to save Passion Monk, because with one less Law Emperor, they would have one less hope of opening the true Law Realm. However, he was powerless even though he had the heart. Chi-chi, boom. The Celestial Yin sword pierced the Blood Lantern with black light. This was a confrontation between the Grand Lotus Venerable's Dharma treasures. The sky full of light and endless immortal power directly caused Mo Mountain Village to fall into destruction. Just now, it borrowed the power of the two Law Lotus Venerables to form a large world. Unfortunately, this large world instantly began to head towards destruction. From birth to death, the Mo Mountain world was like a mayfly. However, this kind of destruction was exactly what Black Lotus needed. He would absorb the power he needed from all the destruction. After all, they were all purifiers. If the power of destruction was turned into their own, they would be able to open the door to the true Law Realm. Moreover, this time, the Celestial Yin sword had the upper hand. After all, the Celestial Yin sword was a physical attack-type Dharma treasure, while the Blood Lantern specialized in collecting blood souls. With one strike, the Blood Lantern was pierced through by the Celestial Yin sword. However, Passion Monk could no longer come out. The Blood Lantern was damaged, but it did not completely explode. Passion Monk's soul had long been refined by the Blood Lantern. "Little girl, give me your life." Black Lotus' heartless eyes were filled with murderous intent and anger. Passion Monk had fallen. He had suffered a heavy blow. Therefore, he vented all his anger on Wang Shui. "Kill." Black Lotus's mind moved, and the Celestial Yin sword went straight to Wang Shui. "Withdraw." Wang Shui waved her hand and withdrew the Blood Lantern. She was not Dharma Lotus Venerable King. She could only rely on the Great Lotus Venerable King's Dharma treasure to restrain Black Lotus. However, if Black Lotus specifically dealt with her, she was not his opponent. Wang Shui would not fight head-on. That kind of life-and-death duel did not belong to Wang Shui. When Black Lotus looked at her, a forbidden map had already appeared under her feet. Her forbidden painting had been passed down by Mo Lang. With her realm, her forbidden map was better than Devil Lang. Just as the Celestial Yin sword was about to fly toward her, she had already teleported behind White Lotus Boy. "Brother Boy," Wang Shui hurriedly called. "Sister Shui, don't worry." White Lotus Boy's anger had not subsided, and he still looked like a demon. "Just now, that monk was not killed by me. Let's have another one." "Good," Wang Shui loudly encouraged. "Black Lotus, long time no see." White Lotus Boy held the Ghost Wrath Scepter and stood in front of Black Lotus. White Lotus, long time no see. Black Lotus' heartless eyes were cold. That year, it was thanks to you that I reincarnated in the lower realm. Today, everything will be settled. Hee. There is a cause, and there is an effect, the true cycle of life and death. White Lotus Boy said, Master, let me go down the mountain, most likely to let me end my karma with you. Today, either you die or I die. Black or white. Black Lotus sneered. Life and death do not exist. Everyone could not understand the conversation between the two. Everyone present, including Wang Shui, did not know their past. However, they did not have any superfluous words and directly fought in one place. Black and white crisscrossed, destroying the earth and destroying the earth. It was a battle that made the entire Luo Fan Town tremble. At this moment, Wang Shui did not look at the battle between White Lotus Boy and Black Lotus, but her figure moved and went straight to the Black Mountain. AMU and Shun Yin were sealed under the Black Mountain. Father, Mother, I'm coming. Wang Shui suppressed the emotions in her heart. In front of her was Songhai, and behind her was Devil Lang. Chapter 1152. The mortal realm continued to collapse. The joyous realm, Sumeru realm, and Black Mountain realm had fused into one amidst the destruction. Smoke dispersed, and immortal power filled the sky. The aftermath of a Law Emperor-level battle was enough to destroy a small realm. At this time, White Lotus Child and Heartless each displayed their abilities and were locked in battle. Songhai, Wang Shui, and Demon Lang headed straight for Black Mountain. However, as soon as they approached Black Mountain, they felt an invisible pressure. At the foot of Black Mountain, the light of a spell suddenly lit up. Countless black lotuses gushed out from the foot of Black Mountain and bloomed layer by layer. Law Emperor Formation. The outer perimeter of Black Mountain had already been set up by the black lotuses. Songhai's body couldn't help but stagnate. Layers of barriers, Law Emperor Formation, he couldn't break it. At the foot of Black Mountain, Heartless was already prepared. How could he let everyone rescue AMU so easily? A forbidden map appeared under Wang Shui's feet. At the same time, a mysterious light appeared in her hand. It was an apricot yellow triangular formation flag. As soon as this flag appeared, the black lotuses suddenly became agitated. They seemed to be stimulated by something, tumbling and struggling like waves. Open. Wang Shui's hand formed a seal and shouted. The apricot yellow formation flag could be used against Law Emperor Formation. The apricot yellow flag turned into a stream of light and directly inserted into the Black Lotus Formation. Whoosh! In an instant, apricot yellow flames rose like the wind, and the surrounding black lotuses rolled to the sides like a tide. However, the black lotuses further outside were still surging here. One retreating, one advancing, rolled up a 1,000-foot-high wave. Layer upon layer, it was as if endless clouds were rolling towards the sky. However, Wang Shui's apricot yellow flag still opened the Black Lotus Formation at this moment. Although it was only for a moment, it was enough. Venerable Songhai didn't hesitate. He turned into a blue light and directly rushed into Black Mountain. As long as he could enter, there would be more ways. As soon as Demon Lang arrived, the Black Lotus Formation closed again. The apricot yellow flag was directly submerged in the Black Lotus Formation. Grandpa, I can only open it for a moment. Wang Shui was somewhat blaming herself. I tried my best. If Ancestor Songhai enters, then we might be able to rescue AMU, because they are one entity to begin with. Mo Lang consoled. Who? Hua. And at that moment, a tremendous tidal force came from the direction of Meru Meru. This kind of power caused all the celestial river cultivators present to waver. When he looked again, it was as if two incomparably huge suns had appeared in the universe at the same time. The light was dazzling. Countless fragrances blew up like a hurricane, appearing like a sea of perfume. Within the light, A peerlessly beautiful female cultivator wearing colorful clothes appeared in the starry sky. Her eyes and brows were extremely beautiful, and she was bashful and charming. Her entire body exuded the light of a law emperor. She was a beauty among the infinite worlds. Beside her was a tall and sturdy old man. A strand of his long white beard was scattered in front of his chest. His face was rosy, and he had the demeanor of an immortal. Ha ha! Happy girls, charming laughter spread throughout the entire fallen mortal realm. I have finally descended. Where's the little monk? At the same time, she glanced around. However, she did not see Love Monk. She did not even sense his aura. Miss Joy and Elder Lien arrived at the same time. They did not know that Passion Monk had fallen. Elder Lien, help me kill this White Lotus boy. Miss Joy, quickly go to Windwheel Village. Passion Monk has fallen. Let's destroy Windwheel Village first. Then we can stir up the momentum of the fallen mortal realm and open the gate of White Mountain. Black Lotus shouted in the midst of the battle. Huh? Both Miss Joy and Elder Lien were slightly stunned. Passion Monk had fallen? This was something they had never expected. Who could kill Passion Monk in Fallen Mortal Town? However, they were all Law Emperors. Naturally, they saw White Lotus Boy and understood many things at once. If they could not figure it out, they could not ask again at this time. Therefore, they did not hesitate at all. Miss Joy turned into a colorful light and went straight to Windwheel Village. Elder Lien went straight to White Lotus Boy. There were 3 Law Lotus Venerables. This was something that had never happened in Fallen Mortal Town. The entire Fallen Mortal realm was constantly collapsing. It could be said that Black Lotus had the absolute advantage in terms of combat power at this time. Seeing this, Wang Shui once again took out the Blood Lantern and went straight to Elder Lien. She knew that she was definitely no match for Elder Lien. However, she had to do her best to hold him back. Only then would White Lotus Boy have a chance of winning. Otherwise, if something happened to White Lotus Boy, the consequences would be unimaginable. After all, apart from White Lotus Boy, there was no real Law Emperor on her side. Whoosh! Demonic Lang's mortal coffin was taken out at the same time and went straight to Elder Lien. At the same time, the forbidden map under his feet was fully deduced. In the galaxy, the fragments of the forbidden map were also completely mobilized by Demonic Lang. Perhaps those forbidden maps could no longer harm the Law Emperor's body, but it was better than nothing. Clang! The cry of a phoenix sounded. Black Sky and Xing Chun attacked at the same time. Phoenix flames swept toward Elder Lien. Within the flames, there's also a sword light. That was naturally the ancient, mysterious heaven sword, Phoenix Feather. Whoosh! An ancient umbrella was also taken out in the void. That was the original mysterious yellow umbrella that Yun San had borrowed from Yuluo before. At the same time, Yun San stood in front of the zither. With a wave of one hand, countless sound waves swept up. That was a sound wave attack. Li Hin and Xue Ying had already disappeared on the spot. They did not go straight to Elder Lien. Instead, they went straight to Windwheel Village. At this moment, all the cultivators of the galaxy present used their mystiques and did their best. Even if it was like a mantis trying to stop a chariot, they still had to fight to the death for the revival of the galaxy, so that they would no longer be puppets. In fact, ever since the galaxy shattered and they survived, all the venerables of the galaxy had been waiting for this moment. Black Lotus heartless cleansed the 3 realms of galaxy. Every cultivator from the Celestial River present was actually an avenger. They had hidden for countless years just for this moment, to save AMU and restore the galaxy. Thus, they did not care about the price. In their hearts, as the guardians of the 3 realms of galaxy, they had already lived for tens of thousands of years. If their eternal silence could be exchanged for the 3 realms of galaxy, then everything would be worth it. Elder Lien went straight to White Lotus Boy. His injuries had already healed, so he naturally wanted to take revenge. However, he ran into the Blood Lantern that was flying toward him. Elder Lien did not recognize that supreme treasure. However, its blood chi made him frown slightly. Fortunately, the Blood Lantern had already been pierced by the Heavenly Ean's sword, and its power had been reduced. Elder Lien raised one hand and took out an ancient coin. As soon as the ancient coin appeared, it instantly turned into thousands of coins. Sizzle, sizzle. Tens of thousands of golden lights went straight toward the blood lantern. Each ancient coin contained the power of a law king. Moreover, the edges of the ancient coins were as sharp as knives. In an instant, it was like a meteor shower that filled the sky. The main body of the ancient coin was hovering above Elder Lien's head. Its clones flew out in an endless stream. Poof, poof. The blood lantern withstood the first and second wave of attacks from the ancient coins. However, when the third wave of ancient coins flew over, there was finally a hole in the blood lantern. The blood lantern had already been damaged earlier, and it was instantly riddled with holes. Huh! Elder Lien could not help but laugh toward the sky. Other than the blood lantern, there was no need to fear anyone else. He waved his long sleeve, and the demon boy's forbidden painting and the phoenix's mystique light dissipated. The ancient coins clanged as they moved. The phoenix feather immortal sword and the original mystic yellow umbrella were directly sent flying. A law king was not an existence that they could withstand at all. Chapter 1153. Windwheel Village. Mr. Ren and Jia Shusheng had just finished a jar of wine. Both of them squinted their eyes as if they were slightly drunk, but in fact, their minds were clear. How refreshing! Jia Shusheng laughed. Another law king has descended. Mr. Ren glanced in the direction of Joy and Sumi. It seems that Heartless is determined to win this time. Hee. Jia Shusheng nodded with a cold smile. Actually, sometimes I admire Heartless. For tens of thousands of years, he's been fighting for his goal, regardless of good or evil, never slacking off, never changing. Unfortunately, that is his devil-like obsession. Mr. Ren said, if he is not a purifier and focuses on his cultivation, he might be able to enter the true law realm one day. However, stepping on billions of living beings and the corpses of many worlds to ascend White Mountain, that is a devil. I don't understand. What is the point of cultivating like that? Who can say for sure between immortals and devils? Perhaps what he sees is only his own meaning. Jia Shusheng shook his head. However, you are right. We should not be puppets. Our fate should be decided by ourselves. He purified his world, but he cannot stop our choice. Whoosh, whoosh. As the two of them spoke, an extremely strong Law King aura came from the galaxy. That aura, from far to near, was like a rolling tide. 5-color divine light suddenly appeared. Mr. Ren and Jia Shusheng raised their brows. The hand holding the Lianbua divine weapon tightened. The power of a Law King was not to be underestimated. Hee. Joy Lady's charming laughter resounded in the galaxy. At the same time, Joy Lady revealed her incomparably graceful figure. There are actually 2 handsome gentlemen here. Could it be that they specially prepared for me? Joy Lady. Mr. Ren and Jia Shusheng both knew her. Joy Lady, the #1 in all worlds. This Joy Lady was known as the #1 female cultivator in all worlds, and she came from Fallen Mortal Town. Within all worlds, countless male cultivators prostrated before her, only to turn into dregs in the end. Joy Lady, Mr. Ren said coldly. Yo. Happy Lady winked at them and said, so it's Mr. Ren and Mr. Jia Shusheng. Why didn't you have a good time with me back then? Are you regretting it now? Ha. However, it was not too late. To me, the more men like you, the better. This seat does not reject anyone. Hee. Jia Shusheng laughed. I'm happy. You are still so flirtatious even after becoming the Supreme King Falien. Now that I think about it, I do feel a little regretful. If I had followed you and cultivated all those years ago, could I have become a Law Emperor as well? Of course, Joy Maiden said with a charming smile. Scholar, if you want, you can become my guest right now. Sure. Jia Shusheng smiled. This scholar just so happens to be unmarried. To be able to marry a Law Emperor is more than I could ever wish for. However, this place is high and wide. Why don't you follow me back to the World Listening Tower right now? Huh. Happy Girl's eyes twinkled. Scholar, Are you stalling for time? If you are sincere, then stand at the side. This seat will bring you into the true law realm, and then share the bliss. Joy Maiden was charming to the bone, but she was definitely not a stupid woman. On the contrary, she was extremely intelligent. Teasing the scholar would not affect the overall situation, but she absolutely did not believe that Jia Shusheng would really do it with her. If he was interested, he would have already been hers back then. Why now? Joy, so you are not sincere. Jia Shusheng sneered. Scholar, whether I am sincere or not depends on you. Joy Maiden laughed charmingly. At the same time, her body moved. She rushed straight into Windwheel Village. She did not want to be entangled with Jia Shusheng and Mr. Ren. After all, the situation at Black Lotus was not clear. She did not want to follow in the footsteps of Love Monk. Therefore, she made her move. However, how could Mr. Ren and Jia Shusheng let her enter Windwheel Village? The purpose of the two of them being here was to guard the Windwheel Village and prevent it from being disturbed. Mr. Ren did not speak much, but his actions were definitely ruthless. Just now, he did not speak. It would be better if the scholar could delay for a while. But since he could not, he could only make his move. Mr. Ren shook his hand, flicked the fishing rod lightly, and the heavenly hook in his hand went straight to Joy Maiden. The law enforcement heavenly hook was far better than the ordinary liembua. At the same time, the lake water had begun to ripple under Mr. Ren's feet. In the face of Joy Maiden, Mr. Ren had no other thoughts at all. As soon as he made his move, he used his domain and the power of White Mountain. That was his strongest attack. At the same time, Jia Shusheng had also flown up. The world-listening divine brush drew a line in the void, directly drawing a red and black rainbow in the interstellar space. With my world listening, I suppress my world. Jia Shusheng's domain was even stronger than that of Mr. Ren. The reason for that was because his word were law. With the world-listening divine brush in hand, everything he drew could become a domain. At this moment, he protected Windwheel Village with the rainbow. Two White Mountain law enforcers, one on the left and one on the right, attacked Joy Maiden. Unfortunately, this was not an intent, otherwise Joy Maiden would be extremely happy. Chi. A murderous aura filled the interstellar space. Joy Maiden twisted her waist, and Mr. Ren's heavenly hook flew in front of her. Joy Maiden sneered. At the same time, she gently pinched with one hand. A long rose branch that was more than a foot long appeared in her hand. A green branch and a red flower. Joy Maiden's slender hand held the long branch. She was somewhat charming, but more murderous. Go! Joy Maiden waved her hand lightly, and the rose flew directly toward Mr. Ren. As soon as the rose left Joy Maiden's hand, it instantly turned into thousands of flower shadows, directly covering the surface of Mr. Ren's lake. Mr. Ren's face changed involuntarily, because those roses actually took root in the water just like lotus flowers. At the same time, they began to absorb the power of the lake water. A law enforcer's battle technique was indeed different. Looking again, Joy Maiden did not know when there was a jade ruby that was more than a foot long in her hand. It was inlaid with many dazzling gems. Joy Maiden waved the ruby in her hand, rolling up endless light, and directly shook off Mr. Ren's heavenly hook. The power of White Mountain did not show its previous strength in front of Joy Maiden. Therefore, in many cases, your strength depended entirely on your opponent. Huan Yu lifted the heavy weight as though it was light. It was simply effortless for her to break young Master Ren's attack. At that moment, Mr. Ren's heart suddenly sank. Just now, he used the power of White Mountain. However, the power of White Mountain directly turned invisible. Mr. Ren, your power of White Mountain can deal with Lotus warriors, but it can't withstand a single blow from Dharma Lotus Venerable. Joy Maiden sneered. At the same time, Joy Maiden twisted her waist and directly passed through Jia Shusheng's long rainbow. Jia Shusheng's face also changed. Joy Maiden gave him a new understanding of the law enforcer's power. There seemed to be a gap between law enforcer White Mountain and law enforcer. Scholar, come. Elder sister will grant you joy. Joy Maiden's voice was charming, but her body was extremely fast. She waved her hand, and the jade Rui went straight for the scholar's immortal heart. They cannot stop Joy Maiden at all. P.S. Tonight, there will be a patch. I will keep updating until the end. Do you believe me? Huh. Chapter 11:54. At the foot of the Black Mountain, Apotheon Songhai was already standing in front of the Black Gate. On the tall stone gate, there was a black lotus seal. Those were countless lotus patterns like the path of life and death of all living beings. Apotheon Songhai narrowed his eyes at the gate. AMU is inside. Apotheon Songhai seemed to be talking to himself, but also to someone else. Then he opened his palm. His palm was already suffused with endless blue light. Then Songhai took a step forward and gently pressed on the black gate. He wanted to use his own power to blast open this gate. Chi-chi, chi-chi. Songhai's hands pressed on the black gate, and the blue light suddenly dispersed. Above the black gate, the blue light spread. However, the spread of the blue light was blocked by the black lotus pattern. The blue light spread, blocked by the black pattern. Thus, the black door gradually emitted a sizzling sound and blue smoke. At that moment, the blue light and the black pattern were like ice and fire meeting. Either the ice would extinguish all the fire, or the fire would swallow all the ice. Buzz, buzz, the entire black gate was shaking. The blue light diffused, and its range was constantly expanding. In an instant, 1/3 of the entire gate was covered by the blue light. The chi of Songhai seemed to be endless. However, Songhai's eyes were focused and did not relax. Chi-chi, who? Songhai's immortal power surged again, and the blue light above the black gate fiercely attacked the surroundings. However, at this moment, the lotus pattern on the black gate suddenly changed. Buzz, buzz, the black gate shook, and the black lotus pattern suddenly began to counterattack. Apotheon Songhai's expression changed slightly, because there was an extremely pure law emperor's power condensed on the black gate. Obviously, that was the lotus power left behind by Heartless. Boom! Crack! Above the black gate, brilliance bloomed, and endless power surged like a torrent. Apotheon Songhai's arm shook. If he did not forcefully suppress it, his arms would have bounced off. However, there was already the sound of bones breaking in his arms. Songhai's expression changed slightly. Songhai's immortal power was endless. However, at this moment, Songhai felt as if he was about to be sucked dry by this black stone gate. The heart-wrenching pain spread throughout his body. Songhai was once the #1 venerable of the Three Realms galaxy. The invincible blue sea began with immortal venerable blue sea. In Songhai's life, he had almost never been defeated. However, today, he seemed to have finally encountered something that he could not do anything about. Wow! In the Pill Sea, the aura was tumbling. The power of the black door caused Songhai to spit out a mouthful of blood. A trace of helplessness and desolation appeared in Songhai's eyes. The power of a law emperor? Unfortunately, Blue Sea was not a law emperor. At this moment, he was merely relying on his powerful cultivation to forcefully resist the power of a higher level. However, he blocked the second attack of the Lawless King's power. AMU. Songhai looked at the blue light that was slowly fading away and frowned. I will definitely rescue you, because you are the 100th generation Blue Sea. You are me, and I am you. The helplessness and desolation in Blue Sea's eyes gradually cooled down. What followed was hot blood, fighting spirit, and countless years of Blue Sea's foundation. Invincible in the Blue Sea, no matter where. Looking again, Songhai's hands suddenly pressed down, and the black lotus patterns retreated another 30%. At the same time, another version of himself appeared above his head. His divine soul had left his body. However, if Emo Lang was here, he would turn pale with fright, because that wasn't a divine soul leaving his body. It was the immortal demon 3 Lives art. What appeared above Songhai's head was another version of himself. The immortal demon 3 Lives art was a forbidden technique of the ancient vast seas. However, Even a forbidden technique should have its creator. Songhai was the founder of the ancient vast seas, so the immortal demon Three Lives art was naturally created by him. It was just that Songhai had never displayed his immortal demon Three Lives art. Above Songhai's head was a white-robed Songhai. His expression was incomparably cold, and his eyes were filled with eternal disdain and arrogance. "You actually let me out?" The white-robed Songhai sneered. "I thought that you would never let me out? You must know that I am your demon body." "Less nonsense," Songhai said in a low voice. "Quickly help me break open this door. AMU is sealed behind this door." "Oomph." The white-robed Songhai sneered. "Immortals, demons, and mortals have lived 3 lives. Why are the two of you the only ones roaming freely outside? I don't want to save him. If you don't save him, you will die too." Songhai looked at the black lotus patterns on the black stone door and said coldly, "You should understand that AMU and I are the main bodies. If I die, you will die without a doubt. My immortal demon Three Lives art is different from Mo Lang's. Your demon body has never been completely cultivated. So, you are just saving yourself. I'll let you out, so you should know what seal to use." When the white-robed Songhai heard this, he snorted coldly but didn't say anything else. Songhai was right. He was a demon body and couldn't exist as a complete individual. In essence, Songhai didn't cultivate the immortal demon Three Lives art to the end. "Will they appear?" The white-robed Songhai frowned and asked. "Perhaps they died long ago." "Nonsense." Immortal Paragon Songhai said, "Don't you know if they will die or not?" The white-robed Songhai pursed his lips and seemed to feel that he had asked a useless question. His expression turned serious, and he formed a seal with both hands. Whoosh! The white-robed Songhai formed that Songhai summoned. The sun, moon, and stars rise from the primordial world. The ancient sea flows guard the heaven and earth. The white-robed Songhai formed a seal and shouted, "Azure and white light, return." The white-robed Songhai was still in Songhai. His seal was a pure Songhai immortal technique. Whoosh, whoosh, the moment the white-robed Songhai's technique was completed. Not far from the Black Mountain, 2 beams of light abruptly shot out, one blue, the other white. In an instant, they transformed into 2 figures. Azure Demon and Xing Fei stood on either side of Songhai. The white-robed Songhai smirked and said, "You were indeed summoned, but I didn't expect you to come so quickly." Azure Demon smiled faintly. "We have been waiting here for a long time. The Songhai summon will return, even if we die." Xing Fei smiled. "Plus, we won't die." The white-robed Songhai was very proud and didn't say anything else. That Songhai is invincible. A proud and gratified smile appeared on Songhai's face. "White Robe, Azure Demon, Xing Fei, hurry and help me break open this Dharmaraja gate." "Okay." The 3 nodded at the same time. The white-robed Songhai was on the top, Azure Demon was on the left, and Xing Fei was on the right. The 3 of them formed seals at the same time. Their seals were different, but the azure light of the Songhai rippled from their bodies. In essence, they had combined into a small spell formation. Whoosh, whoosh, the 3 beams of azure light illuminated the foot of the Black Mountain. Then, they pressed a hand on Songhai's back at the same time. "Songhai, break the seal." The power of the 4 of them gathered in one place. Songhai's palm emitted an unparalleled power. The azure light suddenly spread and devoured the black lotus patterns. The black lotus patterns were finally engulfed by the azure light. Boom! The black gate suddenly opened. At this time, AMU, who was on the other side of the tunnel, couldn't help but look up. For the first time in countless years, he felt the aura of the Songhai lineage. Immortal venerable Songhai. "Xinyan, we're going to break the seal." AMU's eyes lit up. Chapter 1155. Outside Black Mountain. The battle was fierce. Child White Lotus and Black Lotus Heartless were locked in a stalemate. Both of them wanted to eat each other immediately, but it was impossible for them to do so in a short time. Elder Lien sighed, completely suppressed Wang Shui, Mo Lang, Xin Tian, Xing Chun, and Yun San. Wang Shui was a half-step law emperor. Mo Lang possessed the battle prowess of a peak Lotus Knight. Black Heaven, Xing Chun, and Scattered Cloud were all Lotus Knights. However, a Law King was still a Law King. Fahrenheit King Zun was a qualitative change. The difference between a Lotus Knight and a Dharmaraja was obvious. Wang Shui and the others fought with their lives on the line, but they could only temporarily stop Elder Lien from reuniting with Heartless. However, Elder Lien's ancient coins danced in the air. For Wang Shui and the others, it was almost an unbreakable defense. At the same time, they had to be wary of its attack attribute. At this time, except for Yun San, who had the super strong defense of the mysterious yellow umbrella, the other people, including Wang Shui, were injured. Fortunately, none of their injuries were serious. The soaring green light that came from the foot of the Black Mountain gave them a jolt. It was the light of the sea. For tens of thousands of years, the Blue Sea lineage held a supreme position in the Three Realms galaxy. As long as the sea existed, so did the galaxy. Therefore, at this moment, they mustered up their remaining courage and fought to the death. At this moment, Elder Lien could not help but frown, because he felt that he had been held back for too long. He naturally saw the green light at the foot of the Black Mountain. On his side, the Love Monk had fallen and there were no more reinforcements. However, the other party seemed to have a backup plan. The two Lotus Souls from the Three Realms galaxy seemed to be a variable. With that thought in mind, Elder Lien flipped his palm and 3 silver needles appeared in his hand. They were 3 3-inch long silver needles. Godly Void Needle. It was a top-grade Lianboa hidden weapon specially crafted by Elder Lien. Elder Lien had almost never used these 3 needles before, because there was no need at all. But today, he was prepared to use this to break out of his predicament. These 3 silver needles were meant to take the life of one of the celestial river cultivators. Then, Elder Lien flicked his middle finger. 3 silver needles were sandwiched in countless coins and quietly went to Wang Shui. Elder Lien could already tell. Wang Shui had the highest combat power among the 5, and she seemed to be from White Mountain. The few Dharma treasures on her body all carried by Shan's aura. If it wasn't for Fa Lien Wang Zun, he would have already died in the hands of Wang Shui. Therefore, after killing Wang Shui, the rest would be easy to deal with. Ancient coins filled the sky, dancing in the air. At this point, Wang Shui and the others were already tired of dealing with the strange ancient coin and Elder Lien. Therefore, when the 3 silver needles were mixed in with the ancient coins, they did not immediately sense it. Chi-Chi. When the first needle appeared less than 10 feet away from Wang Shui's glabella, she was shocked. The silver light arrived in an instant. Not good. Wang Shui's face changed. Lianboa concealed weapon. However, Wang Shui couldn't avoid it. The speed of the silver needle was too fast. She discovered it too late. Shui, Mo Lang, and the others also saw the silver light. However, it was too late for them to save him. The speed of the silver needles far surpassed theirs. Chi, the first silver needle directly pierced Wang Shui's glabella. However, when the silver needle touched Wang Shui's glabella, a white light suddenly burst out from between Wang Shui's brows. It was a protective white light. Chi-Chi, the first silver needle, was directly melted by the white light. At the same time, the second silver needle also arrived. However, it was also melted by the white light between Wang Shui's brows. That white light was the aura that white-clothed Grand Lotus had sealed in between Wang Shui's brows. It could protect Wang Shui from death twice. In fact, this kind of protection was enough under normal circumstances. After all, there was almost no one who could kill Wang Shui twice in a row. However, the current situation was a little special. Elder Lien's silver needles were 3 in a row. Wang Shui had no intention of escaping. Chi, the third needle, arrived in an instant. Father, mother. Wang Shui knew that she would definitely die, so she muttered the last words. Puff! With a soft sound, the Lianboa silver needle directly pierced between Wang Shui's brows. Wang Shui's face turned pale. She didn't want to die. She had regrets. She hadn't seen her father and mother yet, because she had been in Luofan town since she had memories. The beginning of her memories was like the House of Illusions. Mo Lang, Huan Hua, and her two aunts raised her. According to her grandfather, her father and mother had used a great magic power to teleport her out before they were sealed. After a few twists and turns, she finally arrived at Luofan town. Except for not having her parents by her side, Wang Shui had a perfect childhood. Mo Lang, Huan Hua, Wang Yu, and Shun Ming all cherished her. Moreover, Wang Shui was extremely smart and talented. She could learn all the spells in the House of Illusions in one go. She could also learn the spells of the other ancestral masters in Galaxy Town. She was the darling of the entire Galaxy Village. She almost didn't know what a bottleneck was. She cultivated and advanced all the way, like a hot knife through butter. Songhai once said that Wang Shui's talent was even better than AMU and Mo Lang. Wang Shui was the master of the Three Realms Galaxy cultivators. Later, she was chosen to go to White Mountain by chance. At first, she didn't want to go to White Mountain. She didn't want to leave the House of Illusions and the Galaxy Village. However, later, White Mountain promised to help her find her parents. She finally agreed to go to White Mountain. This trip lasted for more than millions of years. She became the last disciple of the white-robed Great Lotus Venerable. The white-robed Great Lotus Venerable even wanted to pass on his mantle to her. She could become the female Great Lotus Venerable of the True Law Realm. However, Wang Shui still hoped to return to the Galaxy Village and the House of Illusions. She wanted to save her parents and be happy with them. She didn't want to become the Great Lotus Venerable. In her heart, there was no true law, only her family. Wang Shui's pursuit was simple, but not simple. The silver needle entered her body. At that moment, Wang Shui only wanted to see her parents. She had never really seen them. In her heart, AMU and Shun Yin were great legends. They were very far away, but very close. However, she didn't have a chance. Poof! Wang Shui heard the sound of the silver needle piercing her body. Master's protective power had already been used up. Master, avenge me. Wang Shui closed her eyes and said in her heart. However, Wang Shui suddenly felt that something was wrong. This was because after the silver needle entered her body, she didn't feel anything else. It was as if the needle had gently pricked her, and then the needle disappeared. What's going on? Wang Shui suddenly opened her eyes. Boom! At this moment, the body of the demonic husband not far from her suddenly exploded. A forbidden light shot out from the demonic husband's body, and at the same time, Wang Shui found that her body was actually entangled with an identical forbidden map. Death substitution technique. Wang Shui's expression changed greatly. She suddenly remembered. That was the first forbidden map that her grandfather engraved on her body. At that time, she was just a child in the core formation stage. Her body was just able to bear the burden of burying the forbidden map. She still remembered that the demonic husband said that it was a protective talisman. She was the best gift that AMU left for him. He wanted his eldest granddaughter to live without worries and be safe forever. Grandfather. Wang Shui saw the demonic husband's body collapse and rushed over like a madman. Chapter 1156. On White Mountain, under the ancient pine tree amidst the immortal fog, there was a stone table, a stone bench, and a World Go puzzle. The wind blew, and the fog dispersed. Two cultivators appeared on the stone benches on both sides of the chessboard. They both looked like middle-aged cultivators. The one in white had a head full of white hair that shone. The one in black had black hair that seemed to be dyed with ink. The two of them looked somewhat similar. Senior brother, my chess piece has moved first. The black-clothed Great Lotus Venerable smiled coldly, and a chess piece had already been placed on the chessboard. It seems like your chess piece is going to be eaten by me. In the end, I will still win this game. Hee hee. The white-clothed Great Lotus Venerable laughed. After being sealed for 3,000 years, don't tell me that I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. Junior brother, take a look at my moves. It's a pity that we can't personally play. The black-clothed Great Lotus Venerable snorted. If we personally play, then it won't be a game of chess anymore. The white-clothed Great Lotus Venerable looked at the black-clothed Great Lotus Venerable meaningfully. Junior brother, don't get carried away and forget the foundation of our game. The realms have their cycles, and the true laws have their own will. Our chess pieces are the general trend of the realms. The black-clothed Great Lotus Venerable said to himself, I'm not afraid of that wind, will Monarch Lord. If he really returns, I'll just demote him again. If he really returns, I'm afraid he won't be the wind, will Monarch Lord anymore. The white-clothed Great Lotus Venerable sighed. Actually, what he said back then was somewhat reasonable. The black-clothed Great Lotus Venerable sneered and did not say anything. He disdainfully refuted the wind wheel Monarch Lord's nonsense. Boom! The black door collapsed with a loud bang. The aura of the vast sea lineage was like the freshest air that rushed into the suffocating stone house. Amu and Shunyan looked in the direction of the stone door together. For tens of thousands of years, only Black Lotus Heartless had walked in that direction. This time, a green light flashed, and Venerable Vast Sea, who was dozens of feet away, stood in front. Qing Mozi and Xing Fei stood on both sides of him. Amu. Vast Sea saw Amu and Shunyan and was naturally quite excited. Immortal Venerable. Amu and Shunyan were equally surprised. Qing Mozi and Xing Fei both heaved a sigh of relief. Seeing that Amu and Shunyan were safe and sound, their tens of thousands of years of hiding and searching were not in vain. Chi-Chi, Hua. However, at this time, the runes around Amu and Shunyan instantly ignited. Countless black lotuses filled the area like countless demons. They roared and howled as if they wanted to refine Amu and Shunyan alive. This was Black Lotus Heartless' final arrangement. In fact, the Black Lotus Heartless seal Amu was also a preparation for this day. The Star River had not been completely purified because Amu and Sumo were still alive. Originally, he was going to purify Amu and Sumo together. However, if there was an accident, he didn't mind refining Amu with the Black Lotus Fire first. The power of Amu and Shunyan would eventually become the power for him to open the gate of White Mountain. Looking at the Black Lotus Fire, Songhai and Amu sneered at the same time. At this time, if it was someone else who came to save Amu, they would definitely not laugh. Because no one could save Amu except Songhai and Sumo. Songhai could. Resonance. Amu and Songhai didn't communicate anymore. They had already begun to form a seal. In an instant, the same blue light lit up from their bodies. The same origin, the same heart, and the same root. The blue light on their bodies spread out at the same time. A wonderful scene happened. The Black Lotus Fire that was originally burning between them was instantly washed away. Xinyan's eyes lit up slightly, while Qing Mozi and Xing Fei nodded slightly. Looking again, Immortal Songhai suddenly moved forward and completely turned into a blue light. Boom! Immortal Songhai had completely integrated into Amu's body. Then, Amu slowly stood up. The blue light that filled the sky directly broke away all the shackles around him. Amu raised his hand slightly. Qing Mozi and Xing Fei looked at each other and then turned into light. One flew into his left arm and the other in his right arm. The strongest combination of the Songhai lineage. In the interstellar space, Wang Shui madly rushed to the front of Mo Lang. She really wanted to save Mo Lang. However, it was too late. Mo Lang's body had already completely exploded. The Heavenly Void Needle looked small, but it was extremely powerful. One Heavenly Void Needle could kill a Lotus Warrior. The Death Substitution technique transferred all the damage that Wang Shui had suffered to Mo Lang. Mo Lang's Tao and soul were destroyed. Originally, Elder Lien was going to use it to kill Wang Shui. However, Mo Lang's body suddenly collapsed. For a moment, Elder Lien didn't know what was going on. However, he couldn't think too much at that moment. Killing one was one. Mo Lang was the enemy's second expert. Once Mo Lang died, the pressure on Elder Lien was suddenly reduced. All of the Mo Lang's forbidden paintings collapsed at the same time. Xian Tian, Xing Chun, and Yun San were furious. Mo Lang was dead. At that moment, Elder Lien had already condensed a handful of ancient coins. Kill! Elder Lien roared. All of the ancient coins in his hand condensed into a huge square coin with a hole in it. Runes flashed on the coin, and its edge was as sharp as a knife. There was only this coin left in the air. It was at least 30 feet wide. Swish! Elder Lien swung his hand, and the coin flew toward Wang Shui like a roulette wheel. This was enough to take Wang Shui's life. After witnessing Mo Lang's death, Wang Shui had completely lost control of her emotions. She charged forward, which was exactly what Elder Lien wanted. Xian Tian, Xing Chun, and Yun Sin used all of their strength to rush toward the coin. The Phoenix Feather Immortal Sword and the Mystic Yellow Umbrella attacked at the same time, but they were too slow. Elder Lien flicked his sleeve. Boom! Whoosh! The tidal wave of Law Emperor's power sent the three of them flying. The Phoenix flames on Xian Tian and Xing Chun dimmed. After all, they had already been injured. Both husband and wife were sent flying. Yun San gritted her teeth. She plucked the strings with one hand. Swish! With the power of the Dharmaraja, Yun San's body leaned forward, and then he and the zither directly stood in front of Wang Shui. This was the only way she could save Wang Shui. It was a life for a life. Yun San would risk his life to save Wang Shui. Wang Shui cried out again. At that moment, she felt that she was a helpless child who could only be protected. Boom! Whoosh! The deadly coin snapped the zither in Yun San's hand into two like a chainsaw. Yun San's lips curved. Songhai! AMU! I can't wait any longer. Then, Yun San played with her fingers. She still had a string in her hand. She wanted to use this string to wrap around Wang Shui and change her direction. Everything happened in the blink of an eye. After the deadly coin snapped the zither, Yun San naturally fell to the ground. At that moment, Yun San felt a bone-piercing pain. The clothes on her back had been torn, and her skin had been cut open. The Grim Reaper was already standing behind her. However, at that moment, she heard a familiar voice. Yun San, long time no see. Whoosh! Endless power instantly enveloped Yun San, just like the warmth of that year and that lifetime in her memory. Chapter 11:57. Boom! Celestial power filled the sky. Elder Lien thought that his deadly ancient coin was enough to kill Wang Shui. Later, he felt that he could only kill a female galactic cultivator. He did not expect that he would be sent flying by a cultivator in green. Phalian King. Elder Lien frowned. Since when did the enemy have a Phalian King? Moreover, he seemed to be coming from the direction of Black Mountain. Who are you? Elder Lien asked. I am AMU. AMU smiled coldly and waved his hand, shielding all the surrounding galactic cultivators behind him. His green robe seemed to hold up the sky of the galactic river. AMU. Elder Lien's expression changed instantly. The Lotus Soul of the Three Realms galaxy that Black Lotus had sealed. How'd he break the seal? In the distance, Black Lotus' heartless expression was extremely ugly. Suma did not come back to life. There is absolutely no problem with his own arrangements. But how did AMU come out? Moreover, how did AMU suddenly become Phalian King? When he sealed AMU was already a high-grade Lotus Knight. However, AMU had been sealed for tens of thousands of years. Even if he had some cultivation, he would not have become Phalian King. Elder Lien, kill him quickly. Black Lotus Heartless shouted. Dad, he killed Grandpa. Wang Shui was behind Amu and shouted with a crying tone. AMU frowned when he heard this, but he immediately smiled coldly. That's impossible, but I will definitely kill this Phalian King. I saw it with my own eyes. Wang Shui cried. Grandpa died in my place. AMU did not answer Wang Shui again. Instead, he went straight to Elder Lien. Shui. Shun Yin went to Wang Shui's side. Mother. Wang Shui threw herself into Shun Yan's arms and sobbed. Silly child. Shun Yin touched Wang Shui's head and said softly, You are exactly the same as I imagined you to be. It's just that back then, you were transformed from my hair. The current you is the real one." Wang Shui did not understand what Shunyan was talking about. She cried and said, "You must avenge grandfather." Hee hee. Shunyan laughed. "How many times has that old Taoist killed your grandfather? How many times?" Wang Shui couldn't help but stop crying. "Your grandfather cultivates the immortal demon 3 lives art, and he's even mastered it. He had 3 bodies, an immortal body, a demon body, and a mortal body. Unless he kills all 3 of your grandfather's bodies at the same time, your grandfather won't die at all." Shunyan laughed. And Wang Shui only remembered at this time. The ENC lineage had a forbidden art, the immortal demon 3 lives art. It was said that his grandfather was the only person who had cultivated. However, Wang Shui had never cultivated the art of immortal and demon 3 lives. How would she know the mystery behind it? Really? Wang Shui looked up at her beautiful mother. Of course it's real. Not far away, a white-haired old man with a slightly hunched body walked toward Wang Shui with a smile. King Absolute Physique. Then, he gradually transformed into the appearance of Mo Lang. Grandfather. Wang Shui was overjoyed. Outside Windmill Village, Jia Shusheng and Mr. Ren both looked pale. Jia Shusheng's chest was full of bloodstains. There were also bloodstains at the corner of his mouth. It seemed that he was beaten until he spat blood. A rose was directly inserted on Mr. Ren's shoulder. However, that rose had completely turned purplish-black. The rose of joy was poisonous. Mr. Ren's other hand was holding the fishing rod. However, that was only half of the fishing rod. The heaven hook that Mr. Ren was proud of had long been broken by Happy Girl's Jade Rui. Jia Shusheng and Mr. Ren's power of White Mountain had been exhausted. At this moment, they were an ordinary 9th-level Lotus Knight cultivator. Together, they had the power of White Mountain 5 times. Those powers didn't have much effect in front of Happy Girl. However, they risked their lives to temporarily block Happy Girl. She couldn't break into Windmill Village immediately. At this time, it was Li Hin and Shui Ying who blocked Happy Girl. However, they were also completely at a disadvantage. However, Shui Ying relied on her unparalleled body technique to deal with Happy Girl. Happy Girl was extremely arrogant. She couldn't kill Shui Ying and Li Hin for a while. She actually saw a woman who was more beautiful than her. Therefore, Happy Girl's fighting spirit was high. It was only a matter of time before Happy Girl broke through everything. No one could stop her. At this time, the aura of the Mo Mountain world had come over. The aura of AMU. Li Hin and Shui Ying were shocked. At the same time, Happy Girl received an extremely dangerous signal. The other side had an extra Dharma Lotus King. This was not a good thing. At this time, the advantage of her side was only here. What if Sumo became a king? Thinking of this, Happy Girl raised her eyebrows. She must enter the village immediately. Whoosh! Happy Girl forced Shui Ying and Li Hin away with one move and quickly made a seal with both hands. When he looked again, Happy Girl suddenly twisted her waist. Her body danced like a water snake. Swish! 3 Happy Girls appeared directly above Happy Girl's head. They were exactly the same, incomparably seductive, and each of them was holding a Rui. Dharma King doppelganger technique. That was a technique that Happy Girl could perform long ago, but she was wary of Jia Shusheng and Mr. Ren's White Mountain power. Therefore, she didn't perform it. In an instant, Happy Girl's main body and her 3 doppelgangers directly rushed to the Windwheel Village. At that moment, it was like 4 Dharma King experts attacked at the same time. If Jia Shusheng and Mr. Ren still had the White Mountain power, they could definitely block one of Happy Girl's doppelgangers, or even directly kill it. After all, they were doppelgangers. However, at this time, they were like arrows at the end of their flight, and even seriously injured. Mr. Ren and Jia Shusheng's injuries were not light. Looking at Happy Girl's doppelgangers rushing over, Mr. Ren smiled coldly, and at the same time his eyes flashed with a touch of determination. Shusheng, I'll go first. Whoosh! Mr. Ren gritted his teeth and directly rushed toward one of Happy Girl's doppelgangers. At that moment, Mr. Wren's body emitted a dazzling light. That was self-ignition of the soul. I'm fishing. Jia Shusheng smiled bitterly. Good brother, I'll accompany you. Chi-Chi, the world-listening magic pen shook violently, but this time it did not attack Happy Girl, but sent the world-listening magic pen directly back to the world-listening tower. At the same time, Jia Shusheng's body also emitted a dazzling light and went straight to another Happy Girl's doppelganger. Snow Shadow and Li Hin did not expect that these two Easter border law enforcers would actually choose to self-ignition of their soul at the last moment to block Happy Girl's doppelganger. That was the last resort that Mr. Wren and Jia Shusheng could use to block Happy Girl's doppelganger. Death! Boom! Boom! Two consecutive loud noises, the starry sky shattered, and the two doppelgangers of Mr. Wren, Jia Shusheng, and Happy Girl exploded at the same time. The rolling airwaves caused many small worlds in the surroundings to shatter. It's really not bad. It's worth it to advertise. It actually supports both Android and Apple phones. The Windwheel Village shook violently. In the village, Bai Lai's eyes showed deep sorrow. Snow Shadow and Li Hin suddenly pounced toward the other two Happy Girls. However, Happy Girl's real body directly blocked them. The roses that filled the sky were like a big formation. The light of Rui covered the sky. Boom! Boom! Snow Shadow and Li Hin were blocked. And at that moment, one of Happy Girl's doppelgangers had already rushed into the Windwheel Village. Chapter 1158. Boom! In the galaxy, Elder Lien was pushed back hundreds of meters by AMU's power. Elder Lien's expression changed slightly. He did not expect AMU to be so powerful. I'll kill you first, then kill him. AMU glanced at Elder Lien and Black Lotus calmly. You're a minion, and he's the initiator. Today, it's time to settle the score with the galaxy. You. Elder Lien was shocked and angry. Originally, his side had the upper hand, but the appearance of AMU completely changed the situation. Elder Lien, stop him. Happy has entered Windwheel Village. Black Lotus Heartless yelled. Sumo is running out of time. Happy Girl will definitely succeed. Cut the crap. Child White Lotus hammered down with his pestle. At this moment, Child White Lotus was already really angry. Black Lotus had once been defeated by him, but today, the two of them were evenly matched. Black Lotus's cultivation had improved greatly. It was extremely difficult for Child White Lotus to kill Black Lotus, and he might even be killed instead. Black Lotus Heartless was also anxious. The current situation was developing in a direction that was disadvantageous to his side. He also wanted to defeat Child White Lotus in one go. However, Child White Lotus became more and more courageous as he fought. Happy Girl, it's all up to you now. Black Lotus Heartless stepped up his attacks and pinned his hopes on Happy Girl. At this moment, more than half of Luofan Town had collapsed. As soon as AMU appeared, the barrier of Galaxy Village was opened by Wang Ju. This was because it could better withstand the power of the Law Emperor brought by AMU's appearance. Otherwise, everyone would be destroyed. Currently, the only intact villages in Luofan Town were Dongli and Cut Sleeve. After the change, Luofan Town would no longer exist no matter what. Windwheel Village. One of Happy Girl's doppelgangers rushed in. Bai Lai's expression suddenly changed. At this moment, there were at least 4 hours left before Sumo completed the fusion. Moreover, it was impossible for Happy Girl to not reach the front of the Windwheel Palace within 4 hours. Bai Lai knew that he was useless. He, the Lotus Knight Stage 7, was completely vulnerable in front of Dharma Lotus Wanzuan. In this current situation, he couldn't even be considered a combatant. Boom! Bang! Miss Joy rushed straight in the direction of the Windwheel Palace. However, she was blocked. However, what stopped her was not a cultivator, but an array formation. Other than Bai Lai, there were no other cultivators in Windwheel Village. However, the moment the joyful lady stepped into the Windwheel Village, the stone house where the Windwheel children used to be started to move. The 8 stone houses were arranged according to the position of the 8 trigrams, instantly surrounding Happy Girl's clone. Lotus 8 trigrams. Joyful Girl's doppelganger sneered. It's possible that this kind of array formation can stop a peak Lotus warrior. But, in front of me, it can't even withstand a single blow. Who? One of the stone houses flew up and headed straight for Happy Girl. At the same time, the entire formation instantly turned dark, revealing a boundless killing intent. The Windwheel Palace disappeared before Joyful Girl's eyes. Joyful Girl sneered. Facing the stone house flying towards her, she didn't dodge, but directly raised the jade rui in her hand and smashed it at the stone house. Actually, this array formation gathered the wisdom of the Windwheel children. The Lotus 8 trigrams array had countless changes and was full of traps. However, in the face of absolute power, everything was like clay chickens and pottery dogs. Bang! In just a moment, the stone house that was flying over was smashed to the ground by Joyful Girl, turning into countless fragments. This array formation couldn't withstand the power of a Law Emperor. This time, it had actually shaken the foundation of the Great Array. That was because every single stone house was a pillar of the formation. At the same time, the second stone house flew over. Joyful Girl didn't stand on ceremony. The rui in her hand danced left and right, and every time it waved, a stone house would be smashed. The Lotus 8 trigrams array couldn't unleash its power at all. Joyful Girl was like a violent woman, smashing everything along the way. Boom! The last stone house was smashed, and the entire Windwheel village began to shake with a buzzing sound. Inside the Windwheel Palace, Sumo's soul and body had already transformed into facial features. However, their eyes were slightly closed. There were still 4 hours left, and they wouldn't wake up at all. The Windwheel village was completely open. Except for the Windwheel Palace, everything around it had been smashed. At this moment, from the distant galaxy, the Windwheel Palace looked like an isolated island floating on the sea. Bai Lai's face had recovered. He was calm. In fact, when Joyful Girl broke through the Lotus 8 trigrams array, he was already calm. He understood that the Windwheel's attack on White Mountain had failed again. However, he could also accept it. After all, he had experienced such a situation 8 times. Bai Lai longed for success, but he could also accept failure. Painful failure. We tried our best. Bai Lai sighed sadly. Whoosh! With one step, Joyful Girl had already arrived in front of the Windwheel Palace. Joyful Girl, smiled charmingly. This sumo is really peerless. It's a pity that I can't invite you to be my guest today. Kill. Joyful Girl didn't waste any time, nor did she look at Bai Lai. At this moment, that Lotus Night Stage 7 realm was directly ignored by her. She raised the rui in her hand, and with a light of hundreds of feet, she directly smashed it towards Sumo's soul and body in the Windwheel Palace. It's all in vain. Bai Lai closed his eyes. He knew that he had to push everything back to the beginning again. Boom! In the entire Windwheel Palace, there was a loud, thunderous sound. The Windwheel Palace collapsed. On White Mountain, under the ancient pine tree, Great Lotus Venerable in black had just put down a chess piece, then looked at Great Lotus Venerable in white and said, "Senior brother, I won this round. With Sumo's death, you have no more chess pieces to use. You lost in terms of time." Hee. Really? Great Lotus Venerable in white shook his head and smiled. "Junior brother, you seem to have forgotten that one of my chess pieces is very useful." Oh. Great Lotus Venerable in black was slightly taken aback. "Look," Great Lotus Venerable in white pointed at the chessboard. "That is the reason why I didn't let you kill him." That chess piece was AMU, who had just broken the seal. The Windwheel Palace was like an isolated island. In the galaxy, Black Lotus, White Lotus, Elder Lien, and AMU saw everything clearly. A devilish smile appeared on Heartless' face. Joyful Girl indeed lived up to expectations. As long as she killed Sumo, then they would definitely win the 3 against 2. A hint of joy also appeared on Elder Lien's face. As for the cultivators from the galaxy, their expressions changed. However, Sumo didn't wake up. This was something that no one could change. He still needed 4 more hours, but there was no time left. At this moment, Only AMU smiled coldly. Then he suddenly forced Elder Lien back with a move, and, at the same time, he retreated. A roulette suddenly appeared under his feet. At the same time, countless forbidden diagrams flew out of AMU's body. It's only 4 hours. The corner of AMU's mouth curled up. That's nothing. I could do it even in the mortal world. Whoosh, whoosh, AMU's hand seals changed. Looking again, the forbidden diagrams that filled the sky were as bright as the galaxy, illuminating the world. Forbidden of time, eternal Xana, Amu said with a faint smile. At that moment, AMU, who was dressed in green, once again controlled the world and time like he did in the past. Chapter 1159. Bang! Under the Rui Jade, the already dilapidated Windwheel Palace was directly overturned by its aura. Billowing smoke and dust rose into the sky. That radiance, which was 100 zhang long, was like a saber slashing towards Sumo. At that moment, Joyful Maiden was even a little excited. With Sumo's death, Windmill Village was destroyed. They were like a white mountain that had taken a solid step forward. The dream of thousands of years was within reach. As purifiers, their lives were not in vain. However, Joy Maiden suddenly raised her eyebrows. An inexplicable aura swept over from different directions. At some point in time, strange runes filled the space between the stars. Forbidden painting. Dharmaraja Forbidden Painting. It was completely different from M.O. Lang's Forbidden Map. The Forbidden Map was an immortal art unique to the Three Realms galaxy. That was Wang Zhu's ultimate technique, and AMU was his first successor. AMU was the one who had set up the Forbidden Map. Whoosh, whoosh, the forbidden diagram swept out, and heaven and earth turned upside down. Happy Girl felt that the rules of time in Fallen Mortal Town were changing. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The sound of water leaking could be heard in space. At the same time, she seemed to see a compass clock in the void. Immediately after, Happy Girl felt that everything around her seemed to be speeding up. Time spell. Someone was pushing time. At that moment, Joyful Girl was extremely shocked. Actually, she could also change time, but that was limited to within the joyous realm. Because that was her big world. Fallen Mortal Town was not an ordinary world. He was an existence that existed between the worlds and true laws. In theory, apart from the true law realm's Grand Lotus Venerable, who else could change the time here? However, AMU did it. The restriction of time. Time flew, and in the blink of an eye, for hours had passed. That moment was an instant. Happy Girl was dumbfounded. She saw with her own eyes that Sumo's soul and Sumo's body instantly merged into one. The bewitchingly beautiful man slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was deep and clear, vicissitudes and sharp. It was an indescribable gaze. Sumo was awake. His body also exuded the power of a Law Emperor. He met Dharmaraja again in Fallen Mortal Town. Bang! Sumo raised his hand and a beam of white light shot out. That ray of light carried a white token, the White Mountain Token. Break! Sumo shouted. Looking again, the White Mountain Token went straight for the Joyous Girl's clone. The starry sky was torn apart again. Happy Girl immediately took out the Jade Rui in her hand. Bang! The White Mountain Token collided with the Rui Scepter. The Jade Scepter shattered with a loud bang, turning into countless wisps of green smoke. It was also a clone of Lianbua. Sumo's eyes narrowed as she reached out with one hand. His body suddenly appeared in front of the Joyful Girl. Teleportation. Teleportation wasn't scary. The key was that Sumo had actually managed to do it in an instant. Destroy. Sumo slapped Happy Girl with her palm. Miss Joy's expression changed drastically. After all, she's just a clone. She can't handle the true power of F.A. Lien King. Actually, this clone could return to the real body at any time. However, Sumo's power had confined everything around her. She had already lost her chance. The Joyful Girl's clone didn't understand why Sumo was so powerful. This shouldn't be a state that a cultivator who had just entered the F.A. Lien King realm should have. There seemed to be an indescribable power in Sumo's body. However, the Joyful Girl didn't know what it was. This doppelganger of Happy Girl couldn't think about anything anymore. Sumo's palm hit her body firmly. Boom! In an instant, this clone turned into ashes. Little Sue! Bai Lai couldn't help but shout from behind. That was a pleasant surprise, and also a cheer. Sumo looked back at Bai Lai and smiled. However, there was a hint of complexity in his eyes. Old Bai, you've worked hard. Sumo said gently, you don't have to go to the lower realm anymore. Today, everything will end. Windmill will definitely return to White Mountain. I'm back. Sumo looked at White Mountain. Bai Lai looked at Sumo and didn't know what to say for a while. At the same time, he felt a familiar yet strange aura on Sumo's body. That was... Bai Lai's eyes widened and he couldn't believe it. Sumo didn't say anything but waved one hand. Whoosh, whoosh. The windmill palace that was scattered by the joyful girl actually began to gather again. Moreover, it wasn't just a simple gathering, but a complete rebirth. Luo Fan Town was shaking. A magnificent and incomparably gorgeous ancient palace appeared above Sumo's head. Windmill Palace. Bai Lai stared blankly. Sumo actually made the Windmill Palace reappear. That used to be the Windmill Palace on White Mountain. All the cultivators in the entire Luo Fan Town saw that palace. It was just that there were too few people who knew it. Among the galaxy cultivators, even Wang Shui didn't know that palace. Cut Sleeve Village. Now, it was still a complete village. It had been shaken, but it hadn't turned into a battlefield. Xinlian, Lucidum, Kuan-Wing, Yulu, and the others were watching the battle. But they didn't make a move. In a battle of this level, they would only be cannon fodder if they went. Godfather, Yulu shouted. Wooer. Do you remember him? Xinlian turned to the plum blossom fairy beside her. At the same time, she waved her hand and set up a water mirror in the village. The plum blossom fairy was only at the rebirth realm. Without the water mirror, she wouldn't have been able to see the battle outside the village. Plum Blossom 5 frowned when she saw the peerlessly handsome man in the water mirror. He looks familiar, but also unfamiliar. He is your husband. Cloth-clothed immortal Lotus laughed. Oh, Plum Blossom 5 blushed. She looked at Sumo with a complicated expression, but she still couldn't remember Sumo. Her heart ached a little. She should have known that man, but she just couldn't remember him. The Windwheel Palace. Guxing's voice came from within the cut sleeve bamboo house. He's back. Lung Yu's voice was cold and complicated. His will is in Sumo. He's finally returned through the Windwheel 9th generation. Hee. Guxing laughed. Although it's only his will, he's really a stubborn man. We can't help but admire him. Sumo had come back to life. The galactic cultivators cheered in unison. AMU stood among the stars, his green robes fluttering in the wind. He smiled warmly. Yuming, it's been a long time. Sumo stepped out of the Windwheel village with a single step. Actually, the Windwheel Palace was no longer in existence. But Happy Girl's main body was still there. However, at this moment, her expression was extremely ugly. The death of her 3 clones had affected her greatly. Right now, she was no longer at the peak of her strength. In fact, it could even be said that she was severely injured. What a clown. Sumo looked at Happy Girl with a piercingly cold gaze. Today, this monarch will get rid of the evil for all realms and return peace and tranquility to all realms. Sumo stretched out her right hand. Her 5 fingers curled into a claw and went straight for Happy Girl's head. Gray light flashed on Sumo's fingertips. It was an extremely strange power. Ah! Happy Girl screamed. Her beautiful face turned pale. At that moment, she didn't want to resist. She even wanted to retreat to her happy world. But she couldn't move at all. The gray light on Sumo's fingertips was a power stronger than the power of White Mountain. She was imprisoned. Puff! Sumo's slender fingers directly penetrated Happy Girl's head. At the same time, the black-robed Great Lotus Venerable on White Mountain suddenly stood up. His eyes were full of killing intent. Chapter 1160. Happy Girl had fallen. Black Lotus Heartless and Elder Lotus faces were already pale. At this moment, the situation was completely reversed. 3-2, the other side had 3 Dharma Lotus Kings. Moreover, There were existences like Wang Shui and Devil Lang who could affect their combat power. Black Lotus Heartless could hardly believe that the situation had reached this point. How could this be? He had planned for tens of thousands of years. How could he fail at the last moment? Moreover, he was not himself. Behind him was Black Lotus Venerable. He wanted to return to White Mountain. He wanted to take a step forward. Black Lotus Heartless' eyes were blood red. At this moment, Sumo, who had killed Happy Girl, walked toward Black Lotus Heartless step by step. Black Lotus Heartless was the cause of everything. The destruction of the galaxy and the fall of the cultivators were all driven by him. For his own advancement, he did not hesitate to pay the price of all living beings. His white robe fluttered. Every step of Sumo was accompanied by the collapse of the galaxy. At this moment, Black Lotus Heartless felt unparalleled pressure. How could Sumo have such power? Boom! White Lotus Boy did not care about that and suddenly smashed down with his pestle. At this moment, Black Lotus was uneasy. This time, he did not dodge and was directly swept by the pestle's light on his left shoulder. Crack! The sound of bones cracking resounded through the starry sky. Black Lotus's face became even paler. White Lotus Boy wanted to take a step forward. However, at this time, Sumo had already walked to his side. White Lotus, you can't kill him. Step aside for the time being and leave him to me. Sumo's tone was very calm, but White Lotus Boy did not refute it. He obediently retreated to the side. In fact, Sumo was right. White Lotus Boy could not kill Black Lotus. At most, he could only seal him. Similarly, Black Lotus might really kill him. Wang Shui could not help but be shocked. Based on her understanding of White Lotus Boy, even if she went over, she might not be able to stop him. White Lotus Boy had already gone crazy. However, he actually listened to Sumo's words. Sumo, Heartless Black Lotus looked at Sumo coldly. At this moment, even if he knew that he had lost the upper hand, he would never admit defeat. Black Lotus had his own backbone. I should have killed you earlier. Hee. Sumo looked at Black Lotus indifferently. It's too late for you to say that. Today, the one who will fall will definitely be you. But before that, I have a question. Speak. Black Lotus Heartless did not hesitate. What's Zillion's name? Sumo asked. Mu Guehua. Black Lotus said Heartless. Mu Guehua. Sumo thought for a moment and then smiled knowingly. Is she the old Go song that the corpse Taoist mentioned? That's right. Black Lotus said, back then, she did have such a nickname. Then do you know that Zillion is my wife's reincarnated body? Sumo asked again. Hee. Black Lotus Heartless shook his head. Sumo, you're thinking too much. Violet Lotus used to be my junior apprentice sister, but she almost perished during reincarnation cultivation once. By a freak combination of factors, when she reincarnated again, her divine soul had the memory of a plum blossom fairy. But that was only a remnant soul, not complete. However, I later discovered the relationship between that plum blossom fairy and you. So, I used her a little. Zillion is not her either. Sumo's eyes flashed with a touch of disappointment. Sumo, the plum blossom fairy has already scattered into many divine souls. Hee. Black Lotus sneered. You can't find her. She has already dissipated in the passage of time and space. Thank you. I understand. Sumo looked at Black Lotus and smiled indifferently. Then, he looked in the direction of Cut Sleeve Village with a complicated expression. Sumo's eyes could reflect Wu Air's appearance. But he didn't know if that should be Wu Air. She seemed to be in front of him, but also not. He thought of the poem in the cave abode of the soul, storing altar. Immortal, immortal bone, immortal soul, immortal reincarnation, immortal heart. The heavens are endless. An immortal world is only for the monarch. Even Sumo couldn't tell which soul of Wu Air's previous life wrote the poem in the cave abode. But in order to find him, Wu Air had countless incarnations and endless reincarnations. Her divine soul had really dissipated in the endless years and reincarnations. Some left a mark, while others left no mark. Wu Air didn't go back on her words. The mortal world was only for Sumo. Junior sister Wu Air, the Demon King, seems to be looking at you. In Cutslee Village, Kuan Wooing laughed beside Wu Air. Oh, the plum blossom fairy lowered her head shyly. But she really didn't know him. Black Lotus. Sumo retracted his gaze and looked at Black Lotus again. The universe is endless. Even if you enter the true law realm, there is still a world above the true law realm. Above the true law realm, there is still the wondrous law realm. And above the wondrous law realm, there is still the wondrous law realm. Black Lotus looked at Sumo and couldn't help but frown, because what Sumo said had already exceeded the scope of Dharma Lotus Venerable. Who was he? Heartless. So what if you return to White Mountain? If you become Dharma Lotus Venerable, there is still Great Lotus Venerable waiting for you. If you become Great Lotus Venerable, there is still Heavenly Venerable Sheng Lian waiting for you. Even if one day you become Heavenly Venerable Sheng Lian, you still can't walk in the sky and live together with the lotus. So the pursuit is endless. How many living beings do you want to destroy? Sumo's words were like a divine oracle. At this moment, not only Black Lotus, but the other cultivators' expressions also changed. Because there was too much information in Sumo's words. In the distance, AMU shook his head and smiled bitterly. Huh. Black Lotus looked at Sumo and said coldly, "Who doesn't know how to talk about the big principles? Sumo, I have my own path. There is no need for you to say so much. Moreover, isn't your wind wheel lineage also diligently seeking to return to White Mountain? How do you know my heart?" Sumo shook his head and laughed coldly. "Heartless, you people destroy living beings. But I only want to save living beings." "Ridiculous," Black Lotus replied with a cold smile. "That's all." Sumo looked at Black Lotus. "Heartless, you can't repent. Then I will send you on your way. I will not seal you. Instead, I will turn you into ashes, and you will not be able to reincarnate." Black Lotus' expression changed again. Sumo didn't say anything else. Whoosh! He raised one hand and gray light filled the sky. As soon as the gray light appeared, the space and time around the Black Lotus Heartless was sealed. Black Lotus' expression changed. You're not Venerable Fahrenheit?" Black Lotus's merciless eyes suddenly widened in fear. "Unfortunately, your epiphany came too late." Sumo coldly said, "Today, for all living beings in the universe, for all living beings in Izong, I will take your life in the name of Sumo." Sumo stepped forward. His right hand formed a claw and slowly reached towards Black Lotus' head. This was the same move he had used to kill Happy Maiden. Black Lotus wanted to step back, but his body didn't listen to him at all. In the gray light, he felt as if he had completely fallen into a nightmare. Everything around him disappeared. In front of him, there was only the peerless man in white walking towards him step by step. "Heartless!" In the distance, Boss Lotus shouted. At this time, he and Heartless were already on the road of life and death. In fact, he also wanted to escape. He could return to the divine void great world. But AMU's forbidden map was around him. He couldn't escape at all. Old fool. Boy White Lotus suddenly jumped up, raised the treasure pestle in his hand, and smashed it directly at Elder Lotus. Since he had lost Black Lotus, he could vent his anger on Elder Lotus. At this time, Elder Lotus had already lost all his will to fight. In a hurry, the ancient coin in his hand flew up, wanting to block Boy White Lotus's treasure pestle. But his strength was a level lower than Boy White Lotus's. Moreover, AMU's forbidden map had already entangled his legs. At that moment, he was like a mortal trapped in a swamp. AMU didn't attack again. He just smiled faintly. Boy White Lotus's treasure pestle directly knocked away Elder Lotus's ancient coin and then landed on Elder Lotus's head. Boom! White light flashed, and his soul was extinguished. At this time, the entire mortal realm suddenly lit up. A starry door suddenly opened in the interstellar space. A mountain appeared within the starry door. It was black on one side and white on the other. Chapter 1161. White Mountain. All the cultivators in Luo Fan Town changed their expressions. But why was half of it still black? Not many cultivators knew that the other side of White Mountain was Black Mountain. Black and white were opposites. It was just that the cultivators couldn't see it. Chi. Inside the starry door, White Mountain appeared. But White Mountain didn't fly out of the starry door. It was still in the true law realm. But suddenly, 3 white lights flew out from White Mountain. "Uncle, be careful!" Wang Shui screamed. The 3 white lights were 3 white chess pieces. Black Robe Great Lotus Venerable's chess pieces. One should know that a chess piece of Great Lotus Venerable could suppress a great world. At this moment, Black Robe Great Lotus Venerable actually attacked Sumo. But Sumo's expression didn't change. Her 5 fingers were already inserted into Black Lotus's skull. In the void, there was the sound of a skull shattering. Black Lotus's face was ferocious, and his heart was unwilling. "You are." Black Lotus's soul flew out from his head. He seemed to remember a legend on White Mountain, but he didn't have the chance to say it. Then, Sumo gently blew a breath of air. Puff! Black Lotus's soul was actually blown away by Sumo's breath. A dignified law Emperor Lotus Warrior had been reduced to ashes just like that. Sumo's gaze was filled with pity and helplessness. Actually, who wasn't a dust? It's just that the you that was erased was a different person. Sumo sighed. "I don't want to kill you, but you treat all living beings as puppets." With that, Sumo retracted his hand, then turned around and looked gently in the direction of White Mountain. Chi. At this moment, the 3 white lights stopped 3 feet in front of Sumo, turned into 3 white chess pieces, and spun on the spot. Phew! Wang Shui finally let out a murky breath, and her expression relaxed. If the 3 white chess pieces didn't stop, in Wang Shui's opinion, they were enough to kill Sumo. Did Black Robe Great Lotus Venerable show mercy? Or did Master make a move? However, at this time, a scene that shocked Wang Shui appeared. Sumo reached out with one hand, and the 3 white chess pieces gently fell into Sumo's palm. "Great Lotus Venerate!" Wang Shui could not help but exclaim. If it wasn't for the Great Lotus Venerate, Sumo wouldn't have accepted the Great Lotus Venerate's pawn. The vast universe as the table, the myriad worlds as the plate, all lives as the children. "You too. How is your chess game going?" Sumo's voice was a bit fleeting, but it was so light that it seemed as if it could penetrate through the entire vast universe. "Windmill, you're finally back." A cold voice came from the Black and White Mountain. At this time, a scene appeared on the Black and White Mountain. Immortal fog, ancient pine, stone table, stone stools, and 2 middle-aged men, one black and one white, were playing chess. The White Lotus Venerate looked at Sumo with a warm smile, while the Black Lotus Venerate looked at Sumo coldly. The words just now were said by the Black Lotus Venerate. "Great Lotus Venerates, long time no see." Sumo smiled lightly. "Now I'm Sumo, not Windmill." "Oomph." The Black Lotus Venerate sneered. "Whether it's Sumo or Windmill, Windmill's will is already on you. However, I won't let you go up White Mountain again." Sumo looked at the Black Lotus Venerate and said calmly, "I want to go up White Mountain. You can't stop me." The Black Lotus Venerate said coldly, "You've just entered the Great Lotus Venerate. You're dreaming if you think you can beat me. I'm the trueness dominator. I set the rules." Hee. Sumo smiled lightly, as if she couldn't be bothered to talk to him. She turned to look at the White Lotus Venerate. "Windmill, I wish for you to return to White Mountain." The White Lotus Venerate said with a smile, "Let's form a tripod. We can definitely make this trueness realm improve, and we might be able to find the ingenious technique world." Hearing the White Lotus Venerate's words, the Black Lotus Venerate raised his brows. "Senior brother, as long as I'm here, he won't be able to return to White Mountain. However, you lost the previous game of chess." The White Lotus Venerate said with a smile, "The next 10 million years will be completely up to me, won't it?" The Black Lotus Venerate said coldly, "The game of chess is not over yet." The White Lotus Venerate looked angry. Sumo looked at the 2 Great Lotus Venerates and shook her head with a bitter smile. "Aren't the 2 of you tired from playing chess?" The 2 Great Lotus Venerates frowned and looked at Sumo at the same time. White Lotus Venerate, I won't go up White Mountain and enter the trueness realm. Sumo said, it seems like the two of you are still the same. If you don't enter the trueness realm, where will you go? The White Lotus Venerate asked in confusion. You should understand that only the trueness realm can accommodate you. There can't be a great Lotus Venerate in the various realms. You will shatter everything. Sumo shook her head. I have the various realms in my heart. How can the various realms not accept me? The two of you view the various realms as farms and the living beings as cattle and sheep. That's why you can't accommodate the various realms. But I can. That's because I can shatter in the various realms, just like Wu Air's divine soul. Windmill, don't speak nonsense. The White Lotus Venerate shouted loudly. Since you have already become a great Lotus Venerate, then you should forget about the past. You should understand that to you, no matter which life or which body you have, they are all illusions. The Windmill Monarch is your final existence. The rest of the various realms are all fleeting clouds, all illusions. All the laws are like a dream, an illusion, a bubble, and a shadow, like dew or lightning. You should view them as such. The White Lotus Venerate's voice spread throughout the entire fallen mortal world. The White Lotus Venerate was heartbroken by Sumo's words. At that moment, it was as if he was preaching the Tao. All the cultivators who heard him were converted. Amu slightly furrowed his brows. That was definitely the power of a god. Ha ha, ha ha. However, Sumo laughed loudly when he heard that. That laughter instantly dispersed the White Lotus Venerate's voice. All the cultivators instantly felt their minds clear up. Black robe, white robe. Sumo's expression suddenly turned cold. Then, he pointed at the two of them. Countless tens of thousands of years. You two rotate and control the various realms. You herd all living beings and live and die as you please. However, have you ever asked for the wishes of all living beings? The black-robed Great Lotus Venerate looked at Sumo as if he was looking at an idiot. Windmill, it seems like you've rotated too much. The immortal soul has been destroyed, and your godhood has been lowered. All living beings are like ants. Why do we need to ask for their wishes? All living beings are equal, Sumo said angrily. The Milky Way was once endlessly resplendent. Why did you destroy it? One storage, it contains thousands of worlds. How can it be purified? There are many realm lotuses in the true law world. Why did you destroy them with a wave of your hand? Windmill, the White Lotus Venerate scolded Sumo angrily. You've gone too deep. You should understand that we have long surpassed all living beings. We don't belong to them at all. The cycle of life and death in the various realms is just a game of chess for us. Why do you have to complain about this injustice? He doesn't deserve to ascend the White Mountain. The black-robed Great Lotus Venerate said coldly. He doesn't deserve to ascend the true law world. Senior brother, let's kill him first. We'll talk about other things later. This time, the White Lotus Venerate did not speak. Originally, he had wanted to let Sumo ascend the White Mountain and rule the true law together. However, he was rather dissatisfied with Sumo's current behavior. Sumo was already a divine being. True law. True law. Sumo shook her head and laughed coldly. That's not what I'm asking for. The White Lotus Venerate asked, what is your request? Not to be a puppet. To not let down all living beings. To be worthy of heaven and earth. Life and death are in my own hands. The corners of Sumo's mouth curled up. Ha ha ha. The Black and White Lotus Venerates looked at each other and could not help but laugh at the same time. Windmill, you're crazy. Even if it's us, there's still heavenly, venerable, divine Lotus. How can you say such arrogant words? Black robe, white robe. Sumo looked at them coldly. Let me tell you. In my world, there is no true law, nor is there any true law. I only live in the world that I want to live in. You won't understand. With that, Sumo's expression suddenly changed. Puff! The Black Lotus Venerate's 3 chess pieces directly turned into powder in his palm. Then, endless gray light appeared on Sumo's body. The gray light soared into the sky, enough to compete with White Mountain. That kind of gray light was very special. It seemed to disperse layer by layer, like the accumulation of old wine, like a thin veil, but also like a dream that had lasted for thousands of years. AMU was the first to frown, followed by Wang Shui. Netherworld, uncle. However, they soon felt that everything around them had started to become blurry. They had entered a kind of restriction. They could see Sumo, the black and white lotus venerates, and each other, but they seemed to be outside of the world. Sumo isolated himself from them. It was as if they were watching a play. "What's going on?" someone in the Cutsleeve village asked. Plum Blossom 5 stared blankly at everything in the water mirror. There was an indescribable feeling in her heart. Was it jealousy? Pain? Bitterness? She couldn't tell. AI. A long sigh came from within the bamboo house. Lone Star, we really can't compare to him. That's why we can't become great lotus venerates, or even law emperors. Hee. Lone Star chuckled. He suffered for thousands of lifetimes and endured countless tribulations. Everything that Windmill has is what he deserves. Actually, he could have ascended White Mountain, couldn't he? But he cast everything aside. Why? For all living beings. Or perhaps for Wu-Er. Can you? I can't. I can't either. He lived as himself, and we lived as ourselves. Hee. Lone Star and Lung Yu's laughter was filled with self-mockery, but it was also filled with gratification. Sumo had done what they wanted to do, but couldn't. In an instant, gray light covered the entire fallen mortal realm. Bai Lai looked at everything, and tears rolled down from the corner of his eyes. However, he immediately entered the dreamland state. Then, the entire fallen mortal realm was isolated by Sumo. Windmill, what are you doing? The expressions of the black and white lotus venerates changed drastically. Hee. Sumo laughed. I came from all living beings. The current me is the accumulation of the Windmill 9 generations. Of course, I have to return to all living beings. However, before that, I have to destroy the mountain above all living beings. You're crazy, the Black Lotus Venerate said angrily. At the same time, the Black Lotus Venerate quickly formed hand seals. The White Lotus Venerate's expression also changed drastically. They wanted to close the starry door. However, the gray light emitted from Sumo's body had already seeped into the starry door. Countless lifetimes of reincarnation cultivation, countless lifetimes of reincarnation rebirth. His existence was actually for this moment. The power of countless lifetimes erupted at that moment. Boom! The black light, white light, and gray light completely intertwined. At this moment, if Boss Qian was still alive, he would definitely be shocked. Because, in the calculation of black and white, he had once seen the world divided into three. However, he did not expect that it would be a mutual destruction. Whoosh! Sumo's body burned like a star, and then suddenly rushed into White Mountain. Sumo, Xiao Luo, Nether Sovereign Uncle, Godfather, boom. The last scene they saw was the entire White Mountain completely exploding like a huge star. The light that filled the sky was incomparably dazzling. It covered everything. That was the destruction of a true law realm. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust, void to void, nothingness to nothingness. In the light, the voice of Sumo's final hand seal came. All living beings as you wish. Chapter 1162. The vast universe was boundless, and time flowed by. No one knew how many lifetimes and years it was. Among them, there was a star called Hidden Star. It was like a grain of sand in the ocean, a speck of dust in the vast universe. On Hidden Star, there was a mountain range that stretched for tens of thousands of li. The gray mountain range was like a dragon, rising and falling. Its name was Su Mountain. Looking from afar, Su Mountain was covered in dense, immortal fog, ethereal and unpredictable. The people of Hidden Star called it the Divine Mountain. At the foot of the Divine Mountain, there was a long river called White River. It flowed endlessly, flowing endlessly. Su Mountain and White River nourished countless lives on Hidden Star. At the foot of one of the peaks of Su Mountain, there was a medium-sized ancient town. On Hidden Star, no one could clearly explain the history of this ancient town, just like no one could clearly explain Hidden Star's past and future. Beside the ancient town, there was a lake. On the surface of the lake, there was dense blue fog, hazy and indistinct. Through the fog, one could see the blue ripples on the surface of the lake. There were countless lotus flowers growing. Every lotus was as white as jade, exquisite and exquisite. By the lake, at this time, a man dressed in homespun clothes, wearing a bamboo hat, and barefoot, was fishing. However, in his hand, there was only an ordinary purple bamboo fishing rod. Husband, suddenly, a beautiful woman waved at him from not far away. The beautiful woman wore a watercolor dress. Her body was graceful, her figure was extremely beautiful, and her face was as beautiful as a fairy's. What is it? The fisherman took off his bamboo hat, revealing a delicate face. Scholar and my second senior brother are here. If you've caught enough fish, come back. I've already warmed up the wine for you. The beautiful woman's voice was extremely pleasant to the ear. All right, wait for me. The fisherman hurriedly put away his rod, then carried the bench and basket to the beautiful woman. The beautiful woman had a gentle expression as she wiped the fisherman's sweat. In fact, the fisherman's forehead was not sweating at all. How much did you catch? The beautiful woman asked with a smile. A full basket. Don't worry, it's enough for us to drink. The fisherman laughed. If Scholar and second senior brother come together, I'll definitely drink with them. Hee hee. Scholar, you can bring good wine. The beautiful woman said. That's perfect. The fisherman laughed. The two of them chatted as they walked, gradually getting further and further away. Then the fisherman said something that made the beautiful woman clasp his arm and giggle. In the ancient town, there was a rich family. Outside the courtyard, there was a towering ancient tree with luxuriant leaves. One of its forks was as thick as an arm. At this moment, there were 3 people on the ancient tree. Among them, a purple-clothed girl and a white-clothed boy were playing chess. Senior brother Tongzi, you're going back on your word again. The violet-clothed young woman said. I didn't. The white-clothed boy said angrily. Just now, I stewed your horse. Nonsense. The purple-clothed girl pouted and said unhappily. Just now, it was clearly your elephant that was braised. Then I'll fry your handsome face. The white-clothed boy said proudly. Slow down. The purple-clothed girl shouted. Beside them lay a red-clothed woman. She held a wine pot in her hand, but her eyes were clear and bright. She smiled as she watched the young girl and boy playing chess. And, look, senior brother Tongzi is bullying me. The purple-clothed girl complained. Swear, I can't control him. The red-clothed girl said with a smile. You can tell your father and mother. Let's eat. At this moment, a girl's delicate voice came from inside the big house. Today, I'm making braised pig trotters. If you come back late, there won't be any left. Whoosh! The chess pieces and chessboard scattered in all directions. Looking at the tree again, only the red-clothed girl was left. 2 gluttons. The red-clothed girl's clear eyes flashed with a smile. However, she did not immediately go down the tree. She was waiting for someone to call her again. Yua, it's time to eat. Under the ancient tree, a green-clothed man looked at you with a warm smile. Oh, the red-clothed young lady smiled, then flipped over and landed. Brother, what food? The red-clothed girl said with a smile. Did Ming cook today? Didn't you hear her shout just now? Ming is at home, who in our family can cook. The green-clothed man said with a smile. In the future, don't go up the tree to drink. Our big house is enough to accommodate you, right? Oh, the red-clothed girl held her brother and nodded obediently. Actually, she did not like to drink on the tree, but she liked it when her brother called her home for dinner every day. On the west side of the town, there was an old house with a large courtyard. In the courtyard, there lived a large family. The matriarch was known as the #1 beauty in the ancient town. The 2 ancestors in the courtyard were also peerless figures of their generation. In terms of appearance, this courtyard deserved to be the #1 in the ancient town. Wu Ying, Go to the tea house and call your sister back. Shuang said with a smile. It's almost time to light up the lanterns, and it's going to snow soon. If you don't call her back, she'll probably be abducted by the old storyteller. Hee hee. Okay, Kuan Wuying said with a smile. I just don't understand what's so good about listening to that book. She goes to listen to it every day, and she won't go home if she doesn't call her. In the town, there was an antique tea house. Usually, there were quite a few people who drank tea here. This was because the tea here was good, and there were books to listen to. The storyteller was an old man. He wore an old white robe, and it was still clean. No one could remember when he came to the town, and then he began to tell stories here. His name was Bai Lai. He was kind and humorous, and his stories were lively and interesting. Everyone in the town was willing to listen to his stories, but the one who was most willing to listen to his stories was Miss May. A pot of tea and several books. That seemed to be Miss May's everything. She would never get tired of listening to Bai Lai's stories. Speaking of which, that Taoist corpse and the Demon King of the Three Realms fought for 300 rounds, and in the end his soul was destroyed by the Demon King of the Three Realms. Later, Fairy Zillion. The storyteller, Bai Lai, talked incessantly. In the front row of the tea house sat a beautiful girl. She wore an embroidered long dress, and her temperament was simple and elegant. The most special thing was that there was a plum blossom mark between her eyebrows. Wu-er, mistress is calling you back. Kuan Wuying arrived in front of Wu-er. It's going to snow. Oh. Wu-er pulled Kuan Wuying to sit down and begged, Sister, accompany me to the end. There's still a short section. Let's go back immediately, okay? Okay, Kuan Wuying replied. The Demon King of the Three Realms, the joy of the great battle. The Demon King of the Three Realms, the extermination of the Black Lotus. The Demon King of the Three Realms, the sacrifice of his life. Pa. Bai Lai's slap was very eye-catching. Wu-er then realized that she was completely immersed in the storytelling and did not know what day it was, or whether she was dreaming or not. Let's go, Kuan Wuying urged. Okay. Wu-er stood up obediently, but she looked at Bai Lai and asked, Old Bai, do you think that Plum Blossom Sprite can still meet the Demon King? Can she still remember the Demon King? Bai Lai laughed. Miss Wu-er, I don't know about this, and I don't dare to speak carelessly, but I expect that she will. Okay. Wu-er smiled. She was quite satisfied with Bai Lai's answer. Thus, Wu-er and Kuan Wuying left the tea house. At this moment, dusk gradually rose. The various peaks of Mount Su in the distance gradually turned into a hazy shadow. Sister, do you think Old Bai's books are all true? Is Mount Su really formed from the body of the Demon King? Storytellers are all making things up. Kuan Wuying laughed. Sister, it's okay to listen, but don't take it seriously. How can there be a Demon King in this world? Hearing Kuan Wuying's words, Wu-er bit the corner of her lips and did not speak, because she had a strange feeling. Usually, her heart was always empty, as if something was missing. But as long as she listened to Bai Lai's books, she would feel fulfilled, and she would feel happy. Wind, falling snow, gently fluttering. The tea house was empty. Bai Lai was the last to walk out of the tea house. The sky is high and the earth is high. Bai Lai looked at the dusk and narrowed his eyes. Then he smiled and muttered to himself, Except for me, you have erased everyone's memories. But I will remember you. The snow tightened. Kuan Wuying pulled Wu-er and quickened his pace. Behind them, there was a soft sound of hooves. Brother, what are we doing here? It was a woman's voice. Wu-hui, we are looking for someone. It was a man's voice. Hearing that, Wu-er could not help but stop and turn around curiously. Two people, two horses. The man was wearing a white robe, and the woman was wearing a blue dress. They were holding the horses just below the tea house. Bai Lai looked at them in a daze. Old Bai, the white-robed male cultivator looked at Bai Lai and smiled. The Demon King. Wu-er could not help but exclaim. In the wind and snow, the beautiful white-robed man suddenly turned around and saw Lady May. Hearing that, Kuan Wuying could not help but turn around. But as far as her eyes could see, there was nothing. Below the tea house, it was empty. The storyteller, the white-robed man, and the blue-robed woman were all gone. Between heaven and earth, there was only the fluttering snowflakes. Kuan Wuing turned around and looked at Wu-Er again, but his expression changed. In Wu-Er's eyes, a beautiful white-robed man was slowly walking over with a gentle smile. In several lifetimes, in the wind and snow, there will always be someone who returns. The end of the book. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.